Welcome to the East Lyme Board of Education meeting for Monday, July 17, 2017. We called the meeting to order at 6:30 so the board could go into executive session for the purpose of interviewing a finalist candidate for the assistant principal position at East Lyme Middle School. With that, we're out of executive session, and if everyone can rise, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment? And anyone like to address the board on any matter concerning the district? Nope. Okay. We'll move on to approval of some minutes. We have the minutes from our regularly scheduled meeting of June 26, 2017.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the June 16th meeting. 26th, sorry.
26th, yep. Is there a second?
Second.
Barbara seconds it. Any corrections, modifications to those minutes? No? Everybody else okay with them? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed and abstentions? Let's see, Al, Candace, and Jamie. Okay, we have those taken care of. Special reports, no special reports. We do not have a consent agenda, so that brings us directly into our discussion action items for the evening. First one under personnel is discussion and action on the proposed appointment of a full-time position for a 10-month position at the middle school assistant principal. That would be effective July 18th, 2017. And Mr. Newton, you want to?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to just call up Claudine Kelly. I'm excited, as is the middle school administration and the middle school staff, to introduce to you our recommendation for the 10-month assistant principal at East Lyme Middle School. Claudine had gone through the process, and I think really rose as an individual that's going to complement the work that's going on over at the middle school, given her background, strong background as a former school psychologist and our special ed coordinator for the secondary level here in East Lyme, and I think that background is going to support the growth, the social and emotional growth that's going to happen, within our district and part of our goals in moving forward. So I welcome Claudine and introduce her to you as the board, and I'd love to have her as our 10-month assistant principal, as I think Mr. Bickgood will as well.
Okay, good. Anybody like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to appoint Claudine Kelly to the position of 1.0 FTE 10-month assistant principal for East Lyme Middle School effective July 18th, 2017.
A second.
And Candace seconds it. Any more discussion on that? No? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. And
thank you so much.
Claudine.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Maybe just a couple of words as to...
I want to say thank you to everybody, as well as the current administration. It's been a great opportunity to continue to grow and learn. I really am looking forward to working with both Mr. Bickgood, Mrs. Frost, and continuing my learning experiences. And for me, it's a dream job. I couldn't have asked for a better administrative team, a better district, and a better school to be working in. So I'm really excited. I will miss Kim, Mrs. Davis, but I'm not far. And we still got the bat line. So thank you, everybody, very much.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to under the area of finance, facilities, and community. The first item for discussion is a proposed East Lyme High School planetarium presentation. Jeff, you want to give couple sentences,
we had started some discussion at AAA around the planetarium and some ideas as to how that space might be able to be vitalized. It has been a couple of years, I think it was 2013, where it stopped its operations due to a lack of interest and involvement. Diane Swan, one of our teachers, had asked to come to AAA and spoke at AAA, and the board had asked, the members of AAA had asked her to come and present to all of you. So she brings with her Andy Pappas, who's been a longstanding member of our town and community. Andy, welcome. Glad you're here. And Diana, I'm going to turn it over to you. And Marie, let me just recognize Marie Fain as well. Marie?
We're very happy to see you,
We're happy
Marie.
to see you as well. Marie was in a car accident right at the end of the school year, so we were thankful that she was okay. So, Marie, thanks for coming out tonight and supporting. I appreciate you being here. So, Diane, I'm going to turn it over to you and Andy, and do you need anything?
No, just
You're all set for me? Okay. I'm going to move over here so
podium.
you can see.
Good evening, Diane Swan, 7 North Beechwood Road, to get the formalities out of the way there. I'm also an educator here in town at Nyack Center School, which I've had the pleasure, I've just finished my 21st year there, and I'll be starting my 22nd year coming up. 1 year was just as a long-term sub, which it was a great opportunity. So again, I'd like to thank you for having us here this evening. Andy's going to join me as needed. During this presentation, we want to showcase the high school facilities, specifically the planetarium, and it's a prelude to making East Lyme a regional leader in STEAM programming. We're going to show you in our proposal for using the upgraded state-of-the-art planetarium as another community asset. If you think about it like the Children's Museum and the Nyack Bay Boardwalk. So the purpose of upgrading this community asset is so that the planetarium could generate public funds during off-school hours. We believe our district is ripe for creating STEAM programming for our students. We would use the updated planetarium as a way to generate funds to support operations as a regional STEAM program. You might ask why. Well, technology is not up to speed with a 21st century state-of-the-art facility. Granted, we don't have the newest facilities in the area, but let's look at what we do have. We have a talent pool that is deep and wide. Many who live in this town dedicated their careers to science, but most importantly to the students of East Lyme. Establishing a STEAM programming model would reinforce East Lyme's reputation as leadership. It will also show over time and time again the commitment to the children of this town and to the community at large. While coming up with this plan, I used as a guide not just other schools, but the risks that this town has taken to jump in feet first. The Children's Museum and the Boardwalk are just two examples that have been met with controversy, yet the reputation of these initiatives have many primary draws to downtown and other businesses in Nyack. And thinking of this, I brought in people who made things happen in this town. That's why I reached out to Andy Pappas to review my proposal and asked him to partner with me to bring the idea to fruition. East Lyme can be a regional leader with STEAM programming. In speaking with some members of the East Lyme Public Trust, the East Lyme Rotary Club, some members of the Lions Club, there's significant interest in this proposal. After Andy and I met with the East Lyme Board of Ed AAA Committee, we were directed by East Lyme Board of Ed Chairman Tim Hagan and Superintendent Jeff Newton to present this concept to you this evening via business plan model. So what did we do? Well, simply, we looked at the business plan model for the pool, and we used that as our guide for this evening's presentation. Our plan is simple. It is focused, flexible, and user-friendly, while having minimal, if any, impact on tax dollars. So how is the planetarium going to help? Well, according to Board of Ed Policy 3290, where Connecticut State Statute 1037 enables school districts to establish school activity accounts to manage revenues generated through gifts, donation, childcare, non-instructional programs, self-sustained instructional programs, and facilities use. East Lyme set up low childcare for working parents to generate revenue to support our schools, where additional resources could be purchased with no added cost to the taxpayers. The athletic complex, the summer Chinese program, Camp Phenomena, are just a few of the many East Lyme that has been established. So let's take the same idea and see the planetarium as a similar opportunity. Again, why the planetarium? We believe it has untapped revenue-generating future. When the town built the high school, it talked for a long time about the investment in a planetarium versus a pool. A planetarium was selected based on the educational opportunities. A revitalized planetarium will be used to generate revenue to support the STEAM initiative. The state would love to support this plan with money, yet we know that's not a reality. Yet, by finding grants, private investors, and businesses to support this initiative, it is a reality. East Lyme's planetarium can be used as a focal point to support the STEAM initiative. The end result will be the newest facility of this type in the state. It will be able It will be capable of providing programming for after-school hours and during school hours for educational programming. So at this point, we'd like to take and draw your attention to our PowerPoint presentation. And again, if you look at the first slide that's there, we're looking at our game plan. And you have this in your packet as far as if you'd like to take some notes during the presentation. So our game plan, actually, Andy, can I borrow you for the larger copy? Yep. I recently turned 50, and the eyes were the first things to go. So as you take a look at the game plan, what we did is, again, taking a look at the pool proposal, look at the planetarium, and set up a community commission and establish that. We'd like to do that in conjunction with the East Lyme Public Trust, Rotary, Lions, and any other community members that are out there that are willing to serve on the commission. We understand the role and the relationships of the commission. We want to be able to gather and seek input into this perspective and the benefits that the East Lyme community and the school system would have. Then present a proposal to the Board of Ed for comment, endorsement, and seek public input. We would then hold open public sessions. It would be self-sustaining, where we utilize corporate, private companies, grants, and endowments. And then we would present the proposal to the Board of Ed for endorsement. Again, let's explore, full steam ahead. So our ideas for public input, when we're looking at this, we want to do demonstrations at the East Lyme High School Planetarium using our dome with the latest software and curriculum. According to Joyce Town, she is one of the Spitz representatives for communities business there. It's more than just astronomy. And she is willing to come and do demonstrations every 45 minutes for the community to bring them up to speed with the latest technology that we're looking at purchasing to bring the planetarium back up online. Other ideas for public support? We're looking to obtain signature pledges of interest in specific programs. We want to establish a program coordinator. We're looking for volunteers. We will be able to answer questions and compile community input, establish a timeline for deadlines for all parties involved, and we need to update that regularly. We can advertise input session on the East Lyme Public School website, Facebook, via the Parent Connection page. Thank you, Candace. Instagram, and the public access channel. So when we're looking now at the elements of community program that need specific pledged input from the community, we want to tap into our family and individual memberships, look at donors, whether they be individual, family, or corporate. We could hold community events, different programs, boater navigation series, fundraisers, parties. It's really endless. Then we can look at academics shows for other school districts, which would be aligned with the Common Core state standards and the next generation of science standards as well. What else? That's for all of you to decide. We're looking at an orbital business plan, and it's definitely a pun on words, orbital. We would like to establish a planetarium commission, gain public input in this community project, establish subcommittees, which would involve advertising, fundraising, which would also entail schedules and fees, establish partnerships and potential partners. I've already looked into the Public Trust, the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, working in conjunction with the East Lyme Parks and Rec, possibly the Children's Museum of Southeastern Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun Community Outreach Program, General Dynamics, EB, and their outreach programs, in addition to Pfizer, community members, and local businesses. With the orbital business plan continued, we need to remember that this is a plan in progress. We need to revise as we go. As we plan, it will evolve around community input, but we must meet deadlines. Here, who can help with this commission and committees, what we are seeking input from this board, and most of all, we understand that needs to be self-sustaining. So lastly, it's a small step for the East Lyme Board of Ed, and it's a giant leap for the East Lyme community. Again, I want you to remember that the regional return on your investment is community-based for all ages. The last thing for you to remember is limitations are self-imposed, imagination is endless. The town of East Lyme has a reputation for starting and completing community projects. The revitalization of the East Lyme High School Planetarium should be next. So in summary, We have presented a game plan for the proposal that is essential to the same as the pool that is essentially the same as the pool model. We are excited to take the next steps with you to move forward with this initiative. What Andy and I are doing provides programs and services for our town. We want to continue our reputation of being leaders and providing programming and facilities by leaving resources that the whole town can benefit from. So thank you again for having me this evening.
Thank you so much,
Very
Diane.
nice job, Diane.
Very nice.
Very nice. Andy, do you have anything that you want to embellish or add to?
We did met with the AAA group. The only thing that I was kind of trying to bring a common sense type thing to this a little bit. First of all, it's kind of a no-lose situation because the community itself is going to be stepping up to do all the work and also try to organize the funding. To Diane's point, a lot of deadlines that have to be met, so we want to keep our obligation along the way. We looked at the big picture as well. The state's not going to give us more money. That's kind of like things of the past along the way. So this is an opportunity to add something to the education system as well as the town without worrying about tapping state money along the way. Very competitive out there as far as communities trying for other community students.
Yep.
And this is an opportunity for us to add something that gives us a little bit of an upper hand because it's no secret that every town is trying to start. New London's coming after Old Lyme's. Everyone's coming after everybody else's students. You have a first-class, top-of-notch education here. This will add another item to that to keep that going. And at the same time, we're not shooting for the taxpayer to have to pay any money with this. It's an opportunity to bring all community together, not just for parents with students or just for the students, all generations. It's a 12-month-a-year opportunity for us to use this facility. And we have something in place that's a lot of people would probably wish they had themselves in other school districts. We just got to get it back to where it is. We welcome the challenge. The people we talk to get excited about it. I'm sure Diane, when she had that plan together, I mean, it's work in progress. We have to get baby steps to get things done, but at the same time, can't stress enough, we got to reach deadlines. So we don't want to hold anything. We don't want to hold a room hostage. We don't want to do anything like that. We want to earn our keep and have everybody benefit from this. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Discussion? Jeff, anything to add from your perspective, or?
No, Dan, I just, for the entire board, because I know at AAA, we talked a little bit about the financials, some of the costs associated, like with the Spitz equipment. Do you just have some of those numbers? The unit itself, I think, was like about $215,000 maybe. And I don't know if you were looking into yearly maintenance fees too, just while everybody's here together to,
That's okay. So to answer your question, I have looked into price points. But the nice part is Spitz, in addition to a company called Star Lab, is looking into competitive pricing. Spitz would like us to be a returning customer, so this is why they've offered to do the demonstration shows at no cost to us, to showcase the latest technology that we would be purchasing. As a returning customer, they would give us a discount. She offered to actually come here this evening, but I wasn't ready for that because, again, I'm still waiting to hear back from Star Lab to give me price quotes because, we're in a competitive market, and if I can get a discount, I'm going to get a discount. If I can bundle things, I'm going to try and bundle things. So there's a lot of steps in the process, and I've put in a number of hours to get to this point, but to move even further, I really want a commitment from the Board of Ed because it's going to take a lot of work to get to the next level and to the next steps in this. That.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was specific dollar amounts that, you had cost-wise or yearly maintenance,
Once
fees
we
or.
are able to figure out if this is a go or not, then we can be able to nail that down. I mean, when I met with the AAA committee, the ballpark figure for just getting the piece of equipment that we need to be able to do the projection on the planetarium dome again, the pie in the sky number she gave me was $215,000, but that's really like top of the line. Again, I don't have the maintenance fees at this point, but when we get to that point, as part of this plan was setting up a revenue account. We would model it just like the pool, where the pool sets aside $20,000 a year to be able to go into an account to be able to take care of cost. We would do something similar that would take care of those programmings. There's a lot of programmings that are free that come with the Spitz operating system now. So it's not a matter of, constantly having to renew to get the curriculum pieces of it. So there's a lot of next steps involved, and that's why, as Andy had said, this is a work in progress.
Oh, I can't, you.
Go ahead, Bill, you're going first.
Bill, yeah.
I would just to understand, you're talking about no cost to our budget. So the cost to our budget is essentially the square footage of that room. Is that correct? And you're going to handle the and I guess the heating and cooling of the room or whatever. But the software and the unit is going to be maintained by this group. Is that correct?
That is what I would like to happen, and again, since it's a work in progress, yes. If we follow it based on what the pool model was, that's exactly what they did. They used taxpayer dollars to be able to build the pool. And then they set up an aquatic system, and they generated a contract, and Tim, I think you can speak to this because you served on that commission.
Oh, yeah.
So he has a lot more expertise in that area. I've only done, about 20 hours of reading to try and bring that up to speed where we are. So the dollars that would be generated, first of all, to get the equipment and to bring the room back online the way it should be, in order to be able to run revenue programmings, we would need to have an initial investment from grants, not the taxpayers, corporations. I have scientists from Pfizer that are ready to back this. I just can't tell anybody where they need to write their checks to.
Right.
So I have doctors that have approached me and said, just send me the letterhead, what you want. It's a process where people are ready to support it, but I'm in a holding pattern because I can't say, yes, we're ready to go, because I don't know. And it is going to be a work in progress, but again, as a taxpayer in this town, I don't want it coming out of my taxpayer dollars. I want to figure out a way where we can start doing more things in this town, where we're building opportunities to create revenues that offset the costs that we're not going to be getting from the state.
Good. Barbara, and then Eric, did you raise your hand as well?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
but
so
I think
Barbara.
John was
Oh,
before me.
I mean, they have a look this way.
John was
Okay.
before me.
Barbara.
So I know with the pool, we have, once the pool was built, we had to have somebody who ran the pool. So, somebody who runs it, hires the staff, does the finances, et cetera. I'm assuming that the planetarium would need someone, once it was up and running, who then was going to be in charge.
That was referred to in the packet, in the slideshow, as a program coordinator. We would have a program coordinator
Okay.
specifically for that. So this way, we would not be, in the past, the planetarium was run by a planetarium director. We've had 3 since the existence of the planetarium being built in this town. It came online in 1971, and Mr. Bloom was the original planetarium director. So he was paid out of the East Lyme Public Schools funds to be able to run that. He had a supplemental position as a result of doing that. It was the operating budget through the East Lyme High School that maintained the AP3 system, which was the Spitz operating system that was there. So after Mr. Bloom left, Mr. Meyer took over. After Mr. Meyer left, then it became under the charge of Mrs. Thank you, Mrs. Nickel. And again, the equipment was starting to fall apart, things were happening with it, there wasn't a lot of interest as far as astronomy was concerned, so it really kind of went by the wayside. But this opportunity that we have and the resources that are out there that go with being able to have a planetarium are not limited to astronomy. There's multiple things that can happen. An English teacher could be talking about Greek mythology, and she can go into the planetarium and run a program about that.
Yeah, that's neat.
There's different things that are involved with the human body. It's not limited to just one specific area. It's global.
So the program coordinator, are you envisioning that the program coordinator would be paid out of funds we earn from that, or are you envisioning that the board would go back to paying the coordinator?
I do not want the Board of Ed to pay the coordinator, because then it comes out of the taxpayer dollars, and that's
Okay.
not what I want to happen.
Yeah.
It would come out of the revenues or donations that have been made into the planetarium fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be just like having the East Lyme Aquatics and
Right.
Fitness Center, so if all the revenues, work and can pay for the staffing and all that stuff, it goes on. If it, for some reason, everybody in East Lyme decided that we're not going to use the pool, we don't want to use it or whatever, then, then it wouldn't exist. But, that's the thing, is if the interest is there, then it's great, and what's great is it's a showpiece for the high school and for the school district as well. So I mean, it's really kind of
We're
a neat.
one of only two states.
Yeah.
We're one of only two schools in the state of Connecticut that have, public schools that have a working, well, ours is not working right now, but have a planetarium. So we don't have to build it, it's already here.
Yeah.
We just need to get the
Yeah.
equipment to bring in.
See, so I don't, who wants to go
John,
next?
and then-
John?
I
John
have two
there.
quick ones. Regional competition, other than the other public school that exists, is there any other regional competition for a planetarium?
Not that is based in a school where you can have, it can be utilized during the academic day and also not during the academic day. The only
But
planetarium.
Mystic has something, right?
It does.
Okay.
So, well, they
seaport.
have, Trudgeworthy Planetarium is the one that's in Mystic. There's a couple, there's a private school in Avon. I spoke with the headmaster there, Lydia. It's nothing compared to what we have. They're trying to bring it up. She asked me to share our business plan when I was done.
There you go.
In addition, I spoke with David, I want to say Mexel. He is the director of the planetarium that's associated with the Bridgeport Museum and Planetarium.
Okay.
So he is in a different situation because he has a museum attached to the planetarium. So even though we'd be a standalone, there's still so many opportunities that we could have go with it.
Right.
Teachers Memorial Middle School is another one that has it, but they're only for sixth grade. And Spitz actually just brought theirs up, with I think, a modified projector, new projector. I don't have all the details there. But again, they don't have the same selling capacity to be able to utilize that space that East Lyme would.
Right, so regionally, it's only Mystic Seaport, realistically, in terms of our radius right here. The question I have is there grant funding from the state going to Mystic Seaport currently because of the STEM program and things like that? And have you, I know the person on this board the most probably who deals with state government and politics is me. I know that the state really has no money to give anybody, but when it comes to specializations like this,
Yep.
regional capacity as well, there's still money. There's still grants out there that are
Yep.
accessible and things like that. So have you taken the steps? I know you're brand new into this, but have you spoken to Senator Formica?
I've actually spoke with former State Representative Ed Jutila, who
Okay.
supports this 100%. Unfortunately, he's in Florida, so he couldn't be here to
Yeah.
give his, but he has extended his support with this, and he said they've been talking about this at the state level, and again, there's no funding.
Yeah.
The grants, I do have a list of grants that I shared with the AAA committee as far as that are out there to be able to start looking at. But again, until I have confirmation from this board saying that we're ready to roll ahead, it's a lot of legwork that I've done to get to this point.
Yeah.
And I don't mind doing the work. I mean, most of you see my car early at school, late at night. I don't mind putting in the hours. I don't want it to be
Yeah,
for
I
naught.
mean, I'm fully in support of this, and I think the next step would be reaching out to the current representatives that we have who could make this happen. Especially if you're going after the Children's Museum. I mean, Holly's the executive director.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's two stones right there. And, I mean, when it comes to this budget catastrophe that we're dealing with, which won't happen on Tuesday or maybe by the end of July or whatever it may be, but there's still programs that exist up there where we could fight for it. And I know that this board, I mean, I'm just voicing my own opinion, but this is very cool. This is very, very cool, especially for a regional perspective of getting young people excited and competing with our neighbors. As Mr. Pappas said, it's something that we could use again.
And especially for retention of students. I mean, when you walk down Celebrate East Lyme, and I
right,
noticed
yeah.
another school district having now to solicit kids, I pushed my kids in the other direction. I'm like, don't go look at them.
Yeah.
Like, stay here. But I have reached out to, I do have Holly's contact information, also Paul Formica, but in the short amount of window time that I've had, I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
had to call everybody.
if you need their numbers, just,
I have them, but thank you. But I'll be calling you.
cool.
John, I do think one of the other regional things is that the mobile planetariums, so they could be a competitor to us in the sense that ours obviously would be stationed here, and that would be the pride that's here, but you could have some competition in regards to mobile planetariums, so some museums owning them and bringing
I see.
planetariums to schools and things of that nature, but, I mean, that's something I know you're already got your eye on in
And
regards
I
to
already
that.
have looked into that as well, because actually, the Children's Museum does have a mobile planetarium. It is not something that we have utilized in my capacity as an educator at Niantic Center, being the science coordinator.
Right.
It's a very difficult piece of equipment to bring in because it is so large, and you need to guarantee space, and when you're guaranteed that space, you're impacting ongoing programming, it's like PE classes or cafeterias for lunches, so, and that's not something that they're going to take and typically set up outdoors because it's too expensive, so.
Yeah, more foot traffic here, the better, so.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Eric, and then Candace.
Yes, maybe depending on the answer to the first question, I'll have some more. But first, thanks for bringing this forward and taking the energy, because it really, we need people who drive stuff, because just, it takes a lot of effort, and it's the few, tends to be the few that drive it, so I appreciate that. So the first question is really broad, is just, so what do you need? I keep hearing commitment, but I'm not sure what you need from the Board of Ed. Like, what are you looking for today from us? Like, it's not dollars, so what is, I don't know what commitment means, like, yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but.
Eric, it's, I think, and I'll say it for Diane, you can, if I'm wrong, I think what they're looking for is for a period of time, I'm going to say a year or whatever, that we don't do any renovation or change. We make that piece, that the planetarium is available for them. It's not going to go away, okay? And so that they would go do their, all this, incredible amount of work. A lot, work, building all the details necessary. And if successful, then they know that they've got the home is there, okay? So that's kind of, is that, Jeff, that's my understanding.
Yeah, the home is there, exactly, well put. We're
And I don't
not
know
doing
what the
anything.
length of time is, but I said a year, but I have no idea if that's
Well,
the right amount.
To answer your
of time.
question, thank you for jumping in there, but to really answer your question, the commitment that we need is that, yes, we can start moving forward. And if we can move forward, then this way we can establish, whether it's through the East Line Public Trust, whether it's through a revenue-generating account, is to be able to get those donation dollars, because I can't do anything with bringing that space back up online until I have a commitment from the grants, the communities, the people that have said that they will be investors, because I don't have any place to funnel that money. So, and we've learned from past school districts what happens if you funnel money in the wrong places, so we don't want to do that.
So then, so thank you. So a question for Jeff, and then a broad comment. So the question for Jeff is, did we intend to use that space for something else? Do we have any, or is it just sitting, I have no,
We did. We had a plan for next year for that become a special education classroom and to put in a drop ceiling for acoustical purposes. It's been a science classroom, and the acoustics have not been great, but it has been used, I'm not sure how many years, a couple of years, actually I think since 2013. It had been a science classroom, but that one classroom is way away from the science department over here in this wing. So it was a move that individual over here and then use it as a special classroom. I've talked to Mr. Susi. He's on hold with moving forward and any of that, and is looking at different options as to where we could potentially move the special education classroom.
so if we decide to do this, the high school can manage.
We can manage, yeah, we can manage for the year we can use it as storage too, empty out another room potentially and just store it until the time is right and use a different classroom. So that's something I talked to Mike about, so we could do that. It's just
Thank you.
more moving around.
Yes, that helps at
But
least for
it doesn't
context of
damage
what
the
are we just.
dome or,
Yeah.
because I know drop ceiling would put holes in the dome and,
So that would be almost irreversible if we went to the special ed, if we move forward this year.
Yeah, it doesn't,
That would be a
exactly.
bad,
It would cost dollars
Yeah.
then if we
Yeah.
move forward anyways.
Right.
Yeah, a waste of money, so we
Okay.
don't want to do that, obviously, so.
Okay.
we can make that, we can make it work.
So then my comments really have to do with kind of business plan is, I think it would be, so even if we, if we say okay or can make this commitment, I think for me, what I'd like to see is some type of plan on, what the dollars look like over because the first couple of years you're in operation, you're probably not going to be self-sustainable, so you need to raise enough money to cover the first couple of years until word gets out and you build up advertising. It takes a couple of years to do that, so it'd be good to see how are you going to raise enough money to make it sustainable, self-sustainable especially in those first couple of years. And then it would also be good, so risks to have some in the kind of business plan thinking is, well, what if we don't get, what happens 3 years, 4 years, 5 years ago, and we're not self-sustaining, and the funding dries up, what is the plan? And it might be shut down. I don't know. So I just want to understand and make sure that we understand the contingencies of what happens if it doesn't work. The last thing that I'd be interested, especially is, Tim mentioned a year, but it'd be good to understand the timeline. You mentioned a year just as a year, as a day. So what is the so we say, good, go forward, we're all in. At what point do you know it's feasible? If 12 months from now, progress is made, do we then go back to the special ed? So how much are we locking up that space? If you say it's, well, for 1 year, and we'll see, and we make good progress, you come back and say, hey, look, this is where we are, and then we're like, great, go forward, keep moving. I'd like to see at least some timeline of when that, I don't know, not today, but just as you progress to say, when would we know somewhat it's feasible or it's not?
And I've already started that timeline process, because I've already started, when I met with the AAA committee, I had dates, I had timelines, I was looking at different things, and I think, again, I was very excited and energetic about doing it and just getting on board and jumping down. I even had an end date for when we could get this thing up and running. I'm not unrealistic in thinking that we have to look at the entire, budget plan, and the sustainability is going to be the key. Yep. And I understand that completely, because again, this is not something that we want to be able to invest dollars in, whether they come from corporate sponsors or grants or whatever, and then just say, oh, look at that, we failed. This is why Andy and I have talked about this is going to be an ongoing plan. If we establish a commission, we would have definite timelines, dates, what we're looking at. You'll have all of that. I did a walkthrough with a Spitz representative. He did the measurement of everything. He told what the pre-work needed to be done in order to bring the planetarium back, which is minimal. When the dome was cut into to mount a smart board, the projector, that's something that needs to be patched and repaired. That's something that has to be done. That wouldn't be done by Spitz. I've also looked into seating costs. So there's three companies as far as bringing seats back in. There's a lot of, there's a lot of dollars spent. So I've done all of the research and the homework up until this point. I have people that are, again, looking at numbers, dollars, and we have a timeline that's really kind of out there that's in place, but I didn't bring it to the board this evening because until, we decide what the next steps are going to be, it's going to involve. But I'm cognizant of all of that. As any type of business plan, you've got to look 5 years out and see if it's going to be sustainable.
If I could add to that, any of the projects that you would do something like this, you want to look at the worst case scenario. You don't want to look at the best case.
Sure.
Because there's always going to be something that's going to pop up, and it's almost like you got to beat yourself up in order to make something come to and you be ready for it. If it doesn't ever happen, it's a bonus for you because you're laying years ahead. Eastline Public Trust needed to go ahead from hearing something from this particular committee, your board. So it's like, who's going to flinch first to take the first step? Yeah. But we met with their executive committee. They want their message back to us is let's know how the Board of Ed feels. So it's who's going to kind of flinch the first way. And then the reason to be public trust was in there is two reasons. The first, they thought it was going to be more like they were going to be used just as a bank. And indirectly, they are going to be used as a bank. But we also we gave them the option of putting it under their title. Run the whole project start to finish through Eastline Public Trust. Big thing is we want to make it a non-political thing. We want to make it encompass the whole community. It's not a matter
Yeah.
of reaching one particular
Yep.
part of the community, it's a matter of reaching everybody in the community. And people rally together when something's completed. I mean, that's what this town is famous for.
It is.
They start things and they finish
is.
things.
Yep.
And it's not the easiest project that everybody takes. And you don't have the answers, because all you can do is kind of guess. But again, Eric, to your point, you take the worst case stuff there is, and then you're ready for it at least,
Yep.
and hopefully you've done good.
Right, so, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I love this idea. I loved it when we came into the AAA. I was very excited to see you both come back tonight and present. Thank you so much for all the work that you've put in so far. Thank you for having the courage, because it takes courage. Yeah. And what?
Nothing, no, please
Oh, okay.
carry on.
I think that we should move forward. If, as far as approval goes, support, you have mine. As far as using the space, putting out the legwork and the feelers to find out from our community how they feel about it, to get the feedback, to move forward, I think it's fantastic. I think it's something that's going to be community-based and it's going to benefit all. And those are the things that we are looking at, or at least we have been talking about in discussions with moving forward in our plan, looking at things differently, outside of the box, revenue, community. I think it's great.
I think one of the things, too, that we brought up at the AAA meeting was a lot of times these senior citizens in the town or people that have never lived here in their lives and they just moved here, they got this perception there's too much money dedicated towards education. This is something that we're trying to bring in and give them that confidence that they can use this facility as well and
Right,
share with
yeah.
us. So when it comes time to going back to the town taxpayer for a budget increase or
Right.
something, they know that, they got something vested in this as well. So there's a lot of little positives that you gotta think, I think, a little bit outside that box, Candace's point.
Absolutely.
But it's psychological and it's stepping stones, because if we did this in the STEAM Academy type thing, I mean, this is just a step to get to that next area. And I think the more people that get involved in something like this, I think you'll have a positive flow. I think what you're giving up right now is basically asking yourself to give up the space for the time being.
Sure.
Give us an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah.
That's your financial investment, is the space for the time being. Once again, we're firm on we want deadlines.
Yeah.
We thrive on the deadlines along the way. But the more people you bring in, those deadlines will be met.
I think it's really about, it's the commitment of saying, for whatever period of time, if you can figure out how to make all this happen, the space is there. The other thing I'm thinking is that you probably are going to need access. You're gonna have to think some of this stuff through, but you may need, at least at this phase, you may need to have a liaison person or a person from the Board of Ed that engages with you in
I was
how to.
hoping you'd be on the commission.
How this, I got three elements.
Can we serve, can we do that on the commission? Can we be part of it?
I think, yeah, sure. I don't see, and you're trying to figure out the best way of how to set this, how to set this all up. I mean, that would be my take on it. Jeff,
Yeah,
it's such a formative stage right now.
exactly. I mean, the space is there. I mean, bottom line,
Yeah.
we can hold the space, that's not an issue. Diane, in my mind, I keep going back to, it's the hiring of that coordinator is so key, because if that's going to make or break the program. If you don't have the right person that has the passion that you have for this, I worry about the sustainability, with it. That's just my concern. I don't want to be back here in 5 years saying we've got to now fund or help fund, this project to keep it going. So your hiring of that, or the commission's hiring of that person is absolutely critical.
Oh, it's going to be key,
Yeah.
because again, if you don't have the right person with the
That's
passion,
right.
and the question was brought up to me, how would this move forward if you weren't involved with it? And again,
Yeah.
if I do it right, It's going to do it itself. It's not going to
Right.
need me to
Yeah.
be behind it. I'm going to support it because, as I learned from Art Carlson, think global, start local. How local can it be? Being a member of this community, growing up here, going through East Lyme High School, if I can give back to the community with what I'm doing here, I absolutely will. And I want to give back, but I also don't want to give out of my taxpayer dollars. So I really want to make sure that it is substantial, and the person that would be on board is going to be the biggest cheerleader for this town and for this program.
Mariana, did you have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead, please, and then Bill.
Okay, I just wanted clarification. Who would the program coordinator work for? The East Lyme Public Trust?
No, I don't want to say the East Lyme Public Trust.
Okay.
It will be, once we establish the Planetarium Commission, and we model it after what has happened with the pool, then it would be part of that, I forgot the name of the company that they ended up forming to,
So you're going to form your own
hired
company?
a pool management company to
Right.
run all the aquatic and fitness programs there.
Right, so you're going to form your own company, get your own taxpayer ID. It's not going to be the East Lyme Public Schools taxpayer ID. It won't be an employee of the East Lyme Public Schools.
well, that's some of the things that we'd have to, look into, because you can have revenue-generating accounts based on Connecticut State, so that
Right.
once we get this original thing up and running, and if those revenues, when we create enough revenues, are going to be paying her, so then it would be.
Right, but then you get into other circumstances such as health insurance that needs to be offered to the individual. With the aquatic center, we pay the management company. We do not pay employees. So there's other factors. There's workers' compensation. I understand the rules
that's-
of revenue generating funds. There's other factors that need to be considered if we're going to pay the employee.
Right.
So
So you
I just
sound
want
like
to make sure they're
another
aware of it.
perfect member to be part of that commission to help us along. So I think I've signed up two so far.
That's something that the board needs to consider,
Yes.
because
That's
they
right.
can't, if we employ, it's not the same as the pool
No,
company. If we're
that-
employing,
yeah, that's-
Will be
that's-
different.
so
Yep.
it's a
Yeah,
consideration.
there's all of this detail that has to be
There is.
figured. It's an enormous thing, and I remember going way back when we set up the pool structure and all that stuff. We had no clue how it was going to work out. We were literally, but we did find a person that wanted to put an incredible amount of time in to try to make it work. Jack was very successful. So get the right person.
And I do have someone in mind. The individual actually worked for Learn, so has a lot of contacts, and because of the fact that Learn did their massive layoffs, is currently seeking a position. So I know for a fact, she's worked with many school districts, many individuals, has lots of contacts out there. Again, but that would be a decision based on what the commission decides to do as far as hiring a program director, so. And we'll also look at what happens when the contract comes up for renewal for the pool director.
Okay.
Look at that.
So I think, is everybody?
Yeah, I just.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
I'm just going to make a comment. I think this is great, the fact that you've put all this work in already, and I think that it has amazing potential, again, with the right person, like everyone said. But I don't really think we have anything to lose. If we are sitting here 5 years from now, what have we done? We've tried to bring something wonderful to the town, and we didn't get the right, so what? So.
It's worth it.
I think it's well worth the risk. I mean, really,
Yeah.
And I think if it's what I believe it can be, it's going to be awesome. So
I'm
I say,
excited about it.
go for it, definitely.
We have the planetarium, so it's not like
Yeah,
a mouse
right.
can't build it,
That's
which is
right.
the best part. So
We already
it's
have the
there.
resource, we
Yeah.
already have it.
Too bad
It's
it
going to be
wasn't over
exciting, I'm
here,
excited about
It'd be
it.
nice if it was over here, right in by the parking lot, so people could kind of, but, it's
So-
a far corner.
So is it, do we have kind of unanimous consent?
I think we have a consensus,
that
yes.
we, move forward, and the board is certainly willing to hear all the baby steps at appropriate times, and when you come to a point where it may need something from the board more than just the space, you'll come back, you'll come back, and the board very much would want to entertain how best to help you make all of this happen, I guess.
So now, would we have, say, it's a go, just, then have Diane come back maybe every 3 months, or to AAA to maybe have a connect, or how do you feel about it? What do you guys think?
It's one of these things where the baby steps is right on.
How about Diane talks to me when she has information and she's, ready to share.
Ready to share.
Sort of thing, it
Is
might
that
be
good for you?
3 months, it could be 2 months from now, or it could be, maybe a year.
She's gonna go home and make phone calls tonight.
Some kind of a statement of some sort with a backing, this space for a certain time, so we go back to the East Line Public Trust, turn around and show them something in writing that it's not like a binding contract, but it's an endorsement.
Go an MOU.
Why don't you?
I think the minutes will.
Let the minutes, we'll let the minutes say that we have very strong, unanimous consensus of the board to move forward with this. If you want to go and think about how much of a block of time you want to have us hold the space for you while all of these pieces are coming in play, if it's a year, I don't know, I threw out a year, I don't know if that's appropriate. You can always come back with that and say, we'd like your commitment for this amount of time. We could have discussion about it, and then we could have a motion to actually, to do that. But I don't want to try to lock you in, and you guys, there's still.
I think the only thing we need to walk out is talking to these other organizations, everybody who's waiting for like the first person to say, okay,
Yeah.
officially before, and that next step comes in, then you get your not-for-profit status.
Right.
Everything's got a step along the way, and then we can start working on the steps.
But is the meeting minutes enough of a
Well, I
written
think give it a
commitment?
shot.
I think,
The more firm it could be as far as, a commitment.
It's got to come from the board.
It's more powerful to bring it to another organization.
Absolutely.
especially for
Sure, and that's what they're
their
waiting for.
not-for-profit status, too.
Yeah.
Sure.
We'll have the minutes from this meeting, and then Al suggested that maybe, if it's okay, that Jeff and I will write a simple paragraph or two to you, Diane and
On our
Andy,
letterhead.
and say,
behalf of
saying that
us.
the board had, discussion at the
Okay,
AAA,
okay.
at board meeting, and then actually put the thing in there, so you
Yes.
have this piece of
We're not trying to
paper.
back you into holding you.
no, but that's why
No,
you need
I
it. You
get- I
need it
get-
physically, I think, to move forward.
That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Hey, Tim, why, I'm just curious, is if we were going to hold it for 6 months, we're not going to remodel that room in the middle of the year anyway. So if we're saying that we're going to hold it, why isn't it appropriate to just make a motion, say that, for the current school year, we're going to.
The agenda had this marked for discussion.
Oh, okay. So, all right,
So then, this is the first time, I'm.
It says decision requested, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't say it's an action item.
Oh.
Yeah,
So you can't act on things that don't have those on?
No.
All right.
No. Listen.
No,
So
I like the
I think
idea you
that's
brought up.
that's the
I
right
think
thing.
that's the solution.
That's the right thing to do. And
Yep.
then
That way you'll have
the
something.
commitment, and then you come back and say, it looks like if we could have the guarantee for, a year and a half, I have no idea what the answer is. You guys come back, and then we'll take specific action on something
And
like that.
we should just, in our part, should be keeping you abreast of everything.
Yeah.
Give us, whether it's in person or if we go through Jeff or anybody.
Yeah.
The idea of it is just to keep everybody in the know of what's happening along the way. The idea of having a liaison from this board is fantastic.
Yeah, we can
Absolutely. I
certainly,
think that's great.
we can certainly do that. So as you,
Have kept Jeff abreast of everything in this process from the day I met with him, so he's been getting a lot of emails. I think sometimes he might cringe when he sees Diane's monthly material.
Not at all.
No, I don't think so.
No, you worked hard.
okay?
This is great.
Good?
All right.
Good, very nice job.
Thank you
Diane.
very
nice.
much.
Andy, thank you so much
Thank you,
for coming.
Andy and Andy. Thank you, Diane.
Very good. Okay. Next item up for discussion and action is a proposed one-year rental agreement with Learn for the 2017-18 school year. Jeff, do you want to?
Yes, this is just the annual agreement that same verbiage that we've used each year with Learn. Just outlines a 1% increase to the tune of $62,676.125, which the dollars go directly to the town into the CNRE account. So would love to say that this will continue for years into the future, but we'll see what happens with Learn's plans. But at least we know we're committed for next year.
Okay.
You
I
wanna
would
make
like
a
to
motion?
move to authorize the superintendent to enter into a rental agreement with the Eastline Board of Education and Learn for space at Willoughby Haynes School for the 2017-2018 school year at the annual rate of $62,676.25.
I second.
Candace seconds it. More discussion? Comments? Everybody all set? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
I recuse myself.
You recruit, oh, yeah, right, very good. That's excellent.
I'm a learned employee.
He's a learned employee.
Oh.
It's good.
Thank you
Very
for
good.
that
So we
reminder,
have,
Al.
one of- I guess abstain, or recuse, yeah, recuse, I guess, okay. Okay, so that motion, that passes. Next item up is the proposed acceptance as complete of the central office roof replacement project, the state project number 045-0059RR, which is really pretty amazing that you actually, usually these things take hundreds of years to close out.
They do take a while, yeah. This one ended back in 2013, right before I came into district. The project was completed, and then Mariana has picked this up and is looking to work with the state to get it closed out, so we can get reimbursement dollars of estimated about $28,000 back to the town. Erin is here. She's been working on this. If you have any specific questions, we can answer information. But pretty straightforward, reimbursement, 20.25% is a reimbursement percentage. A little different than our elementary school projects, but
Yeah. Okay.
but pretty
All right,
straightforward.
very good. I'd like to move to accept as complete Eastline Board of Education Central Office Roof Replacement Project, State Project Number 045-0059RR, effective July 17, 2017.
Would you like to second that? Is there a second? Barbara seconds it. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Good, and very nice. There you go. Okay. Next item, proposed special education district review by CREC. And that's...
Yes, you've received some information in your packet. We've been talking about this off and on for the last, I'd say 2 or 3 months in relation to looking at doing a comprehensive audit of our special education services. It's been 7 years since that is done, and with Kim being new to her position this past year, it was a good time to kind of take a look. But she's here. We have a representative from CREC. So Kim, I'll turn it over to you and let you introduce Peg, and we'll go from there.
All righty, so good evening. This is Peg McDonald from CREC Technical Services. I have too many things up on the microphone. And so some of you may remember the last audit was done by Futures, right?
Yep.
Al, you, Jamie, you were around for that one. It's helpful to get an outside perspective on the systems in your school system at looking at how you're using your resources, how you're allocating time and staff, and your delivery of educational benefit for students with special education needs. And so we thought that it would be a good time to do that and refresh. We've been working on our long-range plan. We're doing a lot of things to sort of recalibrate around the district and just get a new perspective. And, the special services is no exception. So my goals of completing the audit would be to look at our quality of services in terms of educational benefit for our students and the allocating of resources in an effective and efficient manner for our special education students. So I'm going to bring Peg up because she's an expert in what she does. So that's what I hope to accomplish. But you see in your packet that you do have the proposal that Peg sent us for the audit. So if you'd like to follow along, and I'll let her give you a little snapshot of the process.
Thank you. So just a little bit about me and how we've ended up getting into this, doing program audits for special ed. I was a director of pupil services for 14 years over in South Windsor. I lovingly call myself a recovering director of pupil service. It's a tough job. And in the middle of that, of my career as a director, my superintendent said to me, how do you know you're doing what you should be doing for kids? I said, well, there's the IEPs, there's this. But special ed is so complicated that it occurred to me that we really needed to develop a way to look at the comprehensive services and look at all the data to be able to make these decisions. And that got me started on this. So when I came to CREC, I had already done the South Windsor review and said this is really helpful to districts, it's helpful to boards, it's really helpful to directors of pupil services. So kind of the purpose of these is really to kind of help the board and the district administration, parents, have a shared understanding of what are going to be the priorities in the next 5 years around special education. Where do you want to spend your money on resources? What are the important kinds of things that you need to consider in the next 5 years? So the proposal that we gave you, the intent really is to help you folks take a look at where you want to be in the next, where you are now and where you want to be in the next 5 years. Our methodology is fairly simple. We bring a team of people, so the team will include myself and a speech and language therapist and also a special education teacher, people that have experience elementary and secondary level. And if we need to bring in other staff members, CREC has a large cadre of people we can draw from. We did a review not too long ago, and we started to see some issues with assistive technology and some questions we had. So we happened to have someone who had that expertise, and we brought them in. So the team isn't limited to the people that we're starting with, and we can add more people as we need to. As Kim said, we're going to really look at two questions specifically. One is, how are resources being used effectively and efficiently? And two, are kids getting the educational benefit that you would want them to get? The data sources we use, we kind of triangulate that, and if you look at your proposal on page 4, we try to answer a question with at least 3 data sources and more. So across the top, you'll see the data sources that we're going to be using for the review. We're going to look at your IEP student review. So we do a state, the CERC has come up with a rubric we like a lot that looks at ed benefit. So we take some representative random samples of your IEPs, look at those. We do classroom observations. So we'll be in every school at least one day. We look at state data and your district data, and we do comparative analysis. So I know the state is saying there's no such thing as a DIRG, but everybody uses a DIRG still. So we'll look at the DIRGs, but also some towns that are in your area that may not be in your DIRG that you want us to do some comparison. And we compare resources, number of staff, the kinds of staff, percent of the budget, CMT, or well, no, CMT doesn't exist anymore, standardized tests. So we do a lot of comparison for you. And then we also do focus interviews with staff in the buildings as well as in central office. Based on that, we develop a report. So Kim and I talked a little bit about a timeline. We can start in August, and we'll wait till school gets kind of settled before we do the classroom observations, but we'll do those in September, and then the final report would be October or November, in time for you in terms of budget and other kinds of decisions that you need to make. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have about the process or what our experience has been in other districts.
Questions?
I was trying to understand how you would make the comparisons to, for example, Waterford and Old Lyme, if you haven't been into those schools. In other words, as part of our review, you would be going into those schools as well?
That's a very good question. Really, the comparative data that we do is that mile high data. We're looking at data that the districts give to the state around things such as the percent of the budget that's spent on special ed. We don't necessarily compare IEPs, and we don't go into their classrooms and look at the instruction. So the comparative analysis is helpful for the most part when you're looking at resource allocation, because the state does give us really good, well, fairly good data on the number of full-time employees, for example, that are special ed teachers, that are paraprofessionals, and we can do that comparison for you. But no, we wouldn't, although we do go into a lot of districts, and we do a lot of professional development, technical assistance in their special ed programs. So I think we have a pretty good range in terms of what's happening out there in the state and nationally, because we do some national work as well. So we will bring that to the evaluation. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
John?
Where else in our area have you done this?
Okay, so let's see, all over the state. I'll just give you some that we've done. So we did Rocky Hill, not your area, but a little bit smaller town than we've done Norwalk and East, and Norwalk, Bridgeport, Weathersfield. Down at the shore, we did Westbrook. That was quite a few years ago. Old Saybrook.
Were you there?
No. Those are
Right after.
over
Or before me, I should say.
Portland, Torrington, not always your area, but we're fairly familiar with your area because we have a program in Clinton. Oh, we've done Clinton as well.
Yeah.
And we also do a lot of work over on the shoreline, so we're pretty familiar with what happens down here. We do transition work for you folks and other special ed work.
Good. I see that it would be a written report. Would you also come at some point and kind of walk the board through the information?
Sure, that's usually what happens, but I always leave that up to you.
I think that's really important because, I mean, again, it's one thing to read it, but it's good to be able to see the report and then have someone explain it and then have some conversation around what the findings are. Obviously,
I would definitely put together a presentation and
Yeah.
invite Peg back to sort of co-present.
Good, okay. Yeah.
And we can bring other members of the team also so that you can talk to some of the other members and ask some questions.
I think, so I was looking through Bridgeport's just while you were meeting, so a little bit of a finished product is, ours would look something like this, but not the same. So
Oh.
we'll have a nice bit of meat to base our goals and moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think identifying, specific areas, there could be cost savings, which could easily surpass, the cost of having, Peg and Craig come in. But, they have a strong reputation for the work that you've done.
Thank you, yeah. We're pretty passionate about it, and I think it's a really good way that we can help districts. Special ed is so complicated and kind of confusing, and in these times when you're looking for ways to be more efficient and effective, sometimes it helps just to have someone from outside come in and say, well, here's a couple more ideas, so.
That's good.
Very good.
Excellent.
Great, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
Very good. Anybody want to make a motion on this one? Candace, go ahead.
I'd like to move to authorize the superintendent to enter into an agreement with CREC to conduct a special education review of the school district as presented.
Okay. Would you like to second that?
Second.
Second, Barbara seconds it. More discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Very good, excellent. Yes,
Thank you
and we
so
look forward
much.
to-
We look forward to seeing you again.
months, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Peg. Thanks, Kim.
And Kim, thank you very much.
That was great.
Okay, on item number 5, discussion action on proposed agreement with Child and Family Agency of Southeastern Connecticut for 2017-18 school year and 18 and 19. It's a 2-year.
Yeah, usually this is a 1-year, but what Kim
Yeah.
has talked to them and worked out basically a 2-year agreement for the price of one. They've been great to work with. I've not had one issue with the staff members that they've provided and the services services that they've provided. We've had a pretty long-standing relationship with them. So I would request that we move forward with this 2-year agreement rather than a 1-year agreement with Child and Family Agency. Is any specific
Discussion, any questions?
What's the advantage, maybe I missed it,
Yeah.
what's the advantage of doing 2 years versus a 1 year?
Well, I think we're locking in at that.
At the rate.
At that rate of
Okay.
1.03 and keeping their business. They're a nonprofit. They
Right.
needed to have an increase this year, so Kim and I talked and said, well, let's see, maybe we can get a 2-year for,
Yep.
this
Perfect.
one increase.
That's good. Good. Everybody good with that? Anybody like to make a motion on this one?
I will.
Okay.
I'd like to move to authorize the superintendent to enter into a 2-year agreement with the Child and Family Agency of Southeastern Connecticut Incorporated for the period August 30th, 2017 through June 15th, 2019 for the total amount of $173,872. $86,936 per school year as presented.
Very good.
That's a lot of numbers.
There you go. Well done. Do we have a second on that? Second? Bill seconds it. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Okay. Next one is proposed substitute rates for 2017-18 school year. Action.
Yes, we brought to your attention a little earlier in the year, or early spring, about some subbing issues that we've had. It's grown over the course of the year. We've received quite a bit of complaints from staff and parents throughout the district in relation to our lack of subs, which has become a little problematic. We haven't increased our rates since 2007. I want to be clear that we budget for this for next year. So, there would be an impact. We'd have to find some of the money. We can't pinpoint an exact amount of an increase, not knowing how many subs are used, but we have previous data that we can use, and we can the past few years too. We know what we budgeted for next year, almost 337,000 for our sub account. We were under this year by about 13,000. So, I think, Mariana, we kind of looked at some numbers, roughly maybe 25 to 26,000 we'd be looking at if we put this increase in place. And that's just teachers, $10, a $10 increase just for our certified staff subbing. So I think it's well worth the investment to try and up our sub pay a little bit more to entice individuals to, if they're looking at comparative towns, Waterford paying more, obviously. Some others are starting to pay more. I think it might be a good move to help build our sub pool a little bit more. We've got a date set, we just pushed it out to the administrators today. We're going to have a sub orientation breakfast, like a thank you breakfast at the beginning of this year. Inviting them all in, we're going to be in the high school upstairs, talk about, their role, our appreciation of them. This might be a nice tie-in. We're trying to put a focus more on our substitutes to generally increase they're wanting to be here. So I'll open it up for discussion. Yeah, Amy?
I think also, too, it's important to mention from assistance perspective that we're also working really hard from central office, that when Kim, Pat, myself have meetings with teachers, that we're trying to do it in the least restrictive time, so it's not being pulled away from kids, so that they're staying in the classrooms, because that is their priority, and that we try to make times for meetings that are not during those sort of required hours, or if they are, we try to do it so that you could have 3 reps and maybe you could have 1 sub that is able to rotate through. So we're trying to be more efficient from that point of view too, from central office, just from assistance point of view. And also encouraging our principals to have conversations with their staff in regards to attendance patterns of teachers as well.
Candace, and then Eric.
I just want to say how very happy I am to see this move, because this is a great example of listening to your district, listening to your teachers, listening to parents, listening to even children. I never brought it to you, but mine even came home about a substitute and the quality of substitutes. I think that we're really going to kind of address it with this. I think it's great.
Good. Eric?
Yeah, a couple things. So one is, so what do we expect from subs? So like, they've said subs come in, is their expectation that they're going to continue with lesson plans and teaching? The expectation they come in and just maintain? And is it different at the 3 levels, elementary, middle versus high school?
The lesson plans at any level should be there ready to go, for them. So they come in, they stop in the office, of course, first, get their key, go to the classroom, and get their folder. And in their folder should be their lesson plans for the day. Or another teacher will come over, work with them, and they'll put, forth exactly what they need to do in relation to the lesson for that day. That's the expectation. We only hire individuals as subs with their bachelor's degree, and that's our expectation, to implement the lesson material.
And do we have a rating system? Do our teachers rate, kind of like Uber, you get your driver, you get your, how many stars you get? Do we
I don't
do,
believe we have one, but I like
don't.
it.
We've done that in previous districts where,
We should do that.
Yeah, that's a good thought.
That is a great idea.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
can we do
Oh, we could have it.
Just put together a form that
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could
the
be in
teacher
the,
fills out.
in the packet.
And come back.
Yep. Very simple. We don't want to,
Yeah.
it's a lot more work, but we
Yeah.
really can get some good feedback. And a lot of times teachers will request the same sub through the system.
Yeah.
the
Right,
system,
yeah.
To get them back, especially if they're going to be out for a
Yeah.
period of 2 or 3 days for whatever reason. So that's a good point.
And then my last question, and I probably know the answer, but I'd like to hear it, is, so why do we pay more for the retired teacher versus a substitute teacher? Are there different expectations that we have from the retired teacher versus, so trying to understand the 80 versus 100 or 90 versus 110, like why is there that differential?
Yeah, exactly. They've been teachers.
done
They can just pick up and start and run with things. There's no question. Their skill set is there. They can implement more clearly and articulately implement a lesson.
So this goes back, so maybe it goes back, so the reason I asked the expectations question is we know that the substitute retired teacher can probably, are better able to hit expectations and deliver what we need. So then in terms of the rating system, because one thing you can do with a rating system is you can, we wouldn't do this, but you can almost pay for perform, right? You get the 5-star people, you want to pay them more than when you're just scrambling and you end up with someone who's the 2-star who's just going to come and read the paper, but make sure that,
Yeah, body in the room.
yeah, there's a body in the room. Because there's all, it does happen, you have differentials. So that's somewhat the way we're differentiating, and the reason there's a differential is you kind of expect that the retired teacher is probably going to deliver. And the others, some do, some, you get a mix.
Well,
Okay.
The thing that's always problematic with substitutes is, especially at the high school, if the physics teacher is out, you're probably not likely to have anybody on your sub list who's a
Right.
physics expert.
Right.
Or I know as a world language teacher, when I'm out, I have to leave work that the kids can do without a teacher because it's very unlikely they're going to get a sub that speaks French. So the kind of lesson plan you're going to leave is very much, I will leave work that I know the kids can do without an explanation. So it's going to be more like review work or whatever, because if there's nobody in the room that can answer their questions, they can't really, so it depends on what the subject is, I guess, is the whole thing.
So then the long-term sub-teacher, the reason it's so expensive is you're actually getting
Yes.
the expertise. You're
Then
getting
you
someone
have
who
to hire
speaks
someone
French
who's
or knows
certified.
physics or
Yes.
whatever. So
There's
that's where.
certification comes
in.
Yes, okay, got it. Thank you.
John, and Jamie.
This is one of the biggest, because of the age group, I guess, that I associate with in terms of people complaining. I hear it all the time in terms of subs and the pay and things like that. My question is, Waterford, how much are they paying?
It's on the left.
Yeah, there's some
They
comparables
are-
on the other, last page, John.
I think it's 90.
And 100 if they have certification.
Right.
So if they're out-of-work teachers, they get $10 more.
Gotcha. So this
Right.
puts us right into a
Right.
different competitive market, which is great.
Absolutely, where we
So-
need to be.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of recent grads too, in terms of folks from Eastline High School, graduated college who are kind of just hanging out downtown.
Yeah.
That whole market exists now, which is good, so.
Sure.
We want quality folks, obviously, but it's good to have alumni back in the school system.
Yes.
too.
Agreed.
Jamie?
Mine is just an edit. The last two say retired teacher subbing for IA. I'm assuming that the last one is not IA, that it's TA.
TA.
Yeah, probably, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie.
Can I just ask a question about implementing a rating system? How can we do that? Is that something that we have to, vote on it, put it on the agenda, or can we
It's
just
an ASAP.
implement?
It's an ASAP.
an administrative thing.
Okay.
It's an
For the
ASAP.
teachers.
No, for the subs.
Oh, yeah, 'cause that was my other piece. We want to question the subs, too, so they can fill out a rating after the fact.
Yeah.
Yes,
But-
absolutely. Yeah, I like to
Yeah.
have that
The only thing
feedback.
is,
Just
it's
like that
good if
Uber
it's-
driver rates me when I, that's right.
But honestly, if it's right there in front of them on the desk, I think before they leave for the day too, a sub could quickly fill out a rating. But I know it's an ASOP, but it might be a little easier for them, if it's in a packet, ready to go.
Yeah.
Versus they leave, they go home, the odds of them getting back on the computer and rating could be, unless they had a horrible experience or something of that nature, But it's there. We do have a system in place electronically. but-
Occasionally rate the
Does the system hire the substitutes, or do we hire the substitutes?
The system calls the substitutes.
But we hire them.
We hire them, and we can kind of, and they
Right.
pick and choose which buildings they like and want to,
Right, so
I only want Haynes
we
or-
also let them go if we don't like them, right? That's why it's good to have a rating system, because I know if I used to be the one that hired and fired them, and it was always problematic for me when a teacher or somebody would call me and say, don't hire this sub anymore, and then I didn't have anything to
nothing
say to that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
You need a written trail.
And so if you have a rating system, then if somebody from the school calls you and says, we really don't want this person back in our building, then you say, okay, well, let me see all the ratings on this person. Because it's really hard to have to face up to one of those people who you're trying so hard to hire, and then all of a sudden you have to say, well, they don't want you anymore.
Right.
So I really think the rating system is a good idea
Me too.
on both ends.
Yep.
Yep, okay. All right, let's see, so, we need a motion on this one.
All right, I'd like to move to approve the proposed substitute rate increases effective August 30th, 2017, as presented.
Very good. A second? Second? Who seconded it? Was it Barbara? Barbara, yeah, okay. Any other discussion, comments? Nope. Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good. Next item is the proposed Eversource agreement to provide an extension for a natural gas line to public pool. Yeah, to the pool, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We already, we have it going by the pool right now, and you approved coming down to central office and retrofitting, that building. It came up at that meeting, 2 meetings ago, I think it was, that we talked about, what about the pool? First, I was a little hesitant, but, we got talking more with Eversource, the rep, and for, the cost that I had presented you, the 21,000, this can be done, and the savings, you look at the savings from, 19,700 or so on propane last year, and this would come in at, with the same numbers with natural gas, 12,000, a little over 12,000, so there's significant savings there.
Absolutely.
And,
Do it one time.
It's good?
yeah. And while it's going through, why not tap into the pool boiler? I also double-checked with the pool in relation to the dehumidification system to make sure that we weren't going to have any issues with, because that's supposed slated to go in. We didn't have time to get it in this summer, but it'll go in next summer, and that's fine. No problem with working off of natural gas as well. So I think it's a win-win to do both now.
Very good, Jeff. Al, share what's yours.
When we put our budget together for here, this is the kind of stuff that you need to throw on that one page. We talk about the cost-saving measures we put in place.
Yeah.
Because right there,
Definitely.
that shows the town and the voters that we are being very conscious about our costs and expenditures. If we can save money, we're determined to save money.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'd make sure that this is added to that one page when you do your budget.
Yeah, it's a great point now. Yep, definitely. Because between the two, between the hookup for central office and now the pool,
Right.
it's significant, thousands of
That's
dollars
good,
there.
because like I said, nobody's gonna blow your own horn if you don't blow it.
Yep, good point.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. Anybody like to make a motion?
I move to authorize the superintendent to enter into a 15-year agreement with Eversource to further provide a natural gas line and hook up to the East Lyme Aquatic Center at East Lyme High School. Second.
Candace, seconded. Discussion? Nope. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Passes unanimously. Okay. Next one, item is the proposed resolution to the town of East Lyme for establishing a non-elapsing education account, which was discussed in considerable length at the FFO meeting this early evening. And Jeff or
Yeah, we did, we had some.
Or Eric or Barbara.
Some robust discussion as to, how this might look and how this, could potentially be set up. I don't want to speak for, the committee chairs, but I think it's, having some more conversations with the town around this would be important in moving forward. And I'll turn it over to both of you, the chairs.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said it. I mean, I think we need to really understand, what are the pros and cons of setting it up and how it's going to be used and making sure we're aligned between Board of Ed and the town before we start moving forward with something. I think we need to really understand what it is, because even in our discussions, we're trying to sort through if we each understand and agree with what we're trying to do. So we thought that we need a little more time and spend some time with the Board of Finance, and I don't know if we need to talk to the Board of Selectmen, but it's probably just the Board of Finance.
Probably best to talk to both.
Yeah.
Just have a mutual.
So,
Maybe
have
we
just
invite.
just have a mutual
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. We do something on those lines.
Barbara, I
Yeah.
don't know if,
Yeah, I think we should meet with the Board of Finance first and
yeah.
see where,
They kind of have been
Yeah.
pushing us in that direction.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it really came from them. so.
Yeah, and I think I think part of it is also to be real clear that if there's something that, a reason for doing it or not doing it or whatever, that it's what is possibly being improved or enhanced by doing something is clearly understood by everybody. And
Right.
that's where it was a
And
little
how it
confusing.
works.
Yes, yes.
Specifically.
Yeah.
And how it's going to benefit, I think,
Yep.
everyone.
Yep.
We want to make sure that what we see as the benefit is the same as what they see as the
Yes.
benefit.
Right.
That's why we want to talk with them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think there's going to be different
We talked
opinions
about
on that, but
having a
I
small
think
board of ed
But it could be a
mutually,
win-win.
I think it's
Yeah,
going to be a
we both-
win-win.
Yeah.
Small Board of
Yeah.
Ed committee.
That's what we
For
hope.
those of you that are we gonna do?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're separate.
Eric. Yeah. Okay, so, go ahead, Jamie?
Can I
Yep,
ask
sorry.
a small editorial comment?
Go ahead.
Are the percents in here supposed to be 2 words, or are they supposed to be 1 word?
Where are you looking, Jamie, in one of the options, or?
Oh, I see,
This
yeah.
says percent, is it supposed to be 2 words, or is it supposed to be 1 word?
Oh,
There's 3 of them, 2 on the yellow page and 1 on the white page.
she's going to pick that up. I didn't see that. It's like magnifying eyeballs.
Dramatically.
Percent. I would always think it's one word.
One word.
I think it's supposed to be
Percent is one word.
Percent's
So I
one word.
think-
I don't know where we're looking, but percent is one word.
Well, no, I didn't know if it was supposed to be percent or percent.
No, it's percent.
Percent,
Okay.
you're right, yeah,
That's
you're
why
right,
I'm
you're
just,
right,
I
you're
didn't know
right.
if
So
it
that's
was
one
supposed to be
word.
2,
Yeah.
or if it was supposed to be
Oh, yeah,
1.
there it is.
Okay.
It's like 1%.
I
Yeah,
know
that
what
should be one
percent
word.
means.
Yep.
I just didn't know if we're looking at
I
percent
swear,
or
I think she has like a
percent.
magnifying
I tell you,
lens
yeah.
somewhere in her
It is.
eye.
It's amazing.
It is an
I didn't
amazing
know what
thing.
we were going for. That's why I'm asking.
I like it.
The one word one.
Okay, so
I think
we'll,
it's a fair question.
No, it's a good question. None of us even noticed it.
we'll wait, we'll wait,
We've all got hairy eyeballs. You're like right on.
we'll wait on this one to
Because
see
if
how
it's
the
percent, I
discussions
don't
go.
wanna do that
with,
math.
Board of Finance folks.
So we're going to set up a meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
work with Barbara and Eric. We'll have some
Yep.
conversations first, and then I'll set up a meeting.
I don't envy you if it's percent.
Okay, and can we move right along, the next
Was
one.
that tabled?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's, just not ready to move forward with it yet. Next item is a proposed adoption of the elementary school alteration building committee bylaws. And Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, we had
Say a couple words about this, or-
originally brought this to you as a charter, we called it. But come to find out, after further discussion, we're better off calling it bylaws. And after looking at it too, we had omitted one paragraph on the second page and changed the date. But we felt that it was a much better way to go rather than charter versus bylaws. So,
This was looked at by attorneys and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Then I have another
Yep.
correction on this, too.
all right.
The building committee will act with decision-making and voting authority as limited by these approved bylaws. Second paragraph.
Which,
Second
second paragraph?
Sentence.
See, This, yeah, I see.
By
These,
yeah.
yes, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry.
Nope, that's good, keep
I gotta
reading.
do it.
You gotta-
Just keep going,
It
dude.
drives me crazy. I have to fix them.
Okay,
But everything else, was the same. Again,
Everything's
yeah.
also the same.
This outlined the expenditure process and approval process, which is extremely important in relation to your changes, additions greater than 30,000, being reviewed and approved by the building committee and by the Board of Education. So you're always kind of in the know on the
and everything in
changes.
the town charter, was it town charter? Yeah, was adjusted, it was amended to define the building committee for the elementary school project, and then the Board of Selectmen appointed Bill and myself as well, so we're.
Yeah.
I'm sworn in, just so you know.
So they are voting members, official voting members.
So, okay, so this one,
Doesn't say that, it's for motion.
yeah, there's no motion, but we.
Well, it does
no,
on
there
the
is, there
agenda,
is.
it says.
Here it is.
Yeah, it's a
that's right.
separate motion. We worked with the attorney on this one to make sure we had the motion appropriately written.
Yeah, I'll read it. It says wait on the motion. Oh. I move to amend the East Line Board of Education's elementary school alteration projects building committee charter, which was adopted by the Board of Education at its meeting on April 24th, 2017. The amendments to the Board of Education's elementary school alteration projects building committee charter shall be in the form and in accordance with the document titled Elementary School Alteration Projects Building Committee Bylaws, which has been presented at the Board of Education's meeting on July 17, 2017, will be attached to the minutes of said meeting as presented. Do I need to reread?
No.
Thank God.
Anybody like to second that?
I'll second.
So Candace seconds it. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, no giggles. Okay. You can tell we must be approaching 8:30. Yeah, yep, right on the button. Okay.
8:30.
All right, so that's set.
Policies.
Good, policies. We've got a whole bunch of second readings, 5 of them, for discussion and action. So these were,
30 days.
yeah, over 30 days,
Over.
so. Okay, so, let's see. Okay,
Go.
first, yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
All right, second reading of the recommended Board of Ed policy revision to policy 4112-5, personnel certified, non-certified volunteers, employment check, criminal records check. Jefferson, did anything come in on this?
No.
No.
Board of Ed? Anything else?
Nope.
All right, I make a motion to recommend revision of policy 4112.5, personnel certified, non-certified volunteers, employment check, criminal record.
Second.
Al seconded it, got that one. Any other discussion on this one? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Next one.
Second reading, recommended revision of Board of Ed policy 4118.112, personnel certified, non-certified, sexual discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace. Did anything come in from anyone?
No.
No.
No. All right, I make a motion to recommend the revision of policy 41-18-112, personnel certified, non-certified sexual discrimination and sexual harassment in the workplace.
Also.
As a second, Candace? Candace seconds it. Discussion set. All those in favor of the motion by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. Number 3.
All right, recommended revision of Board of Ed policy 41-18-113, personnel certified, non-certified harassment, section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Anything? Jeff, anything
Nope.
for you?
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommended revision of policy 41-18-113, personnel certified, non-certified harassment, section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990.
Very good. Second?
Second.
Barbara seconds it. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously.
Second reading of recommended revision to Board of Ed policy 51-41-4, students reporting of child abuse. Anything come in on this?
Nope.
All right, I make a motion to approve the recommended revisions of policy 51-41-4, students reporting of child abuse.
I'll second.
Candace seconds it. Discussion? Nope. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, passes unanimously. And the last one,
Second reading, recommended revision of Board of Ed policy 51-45-5, student sex discrimination and sexual harassment. Anything?
No.
All right, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the revision of policy 51-45-5, student sex discrimination and sexual harassment.
second? Candace seconded. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
By
Opposed?
1999.
What? Yeah, but 1999, yeah. Abstain, passes unanimously. Okay, and then we have a first reading for the recommended adoption of Board Policy 6151, instruction class size. And this is a first reading. And I will open the floor, because I think we were going to have
discussion on
have a
this.
little bit of discussion on this one, so, which is good.
Barbara had her hand up first.
Oh, okay. Fire away.
I'm fine with the policy, and I'm fine with the regulation if we don't do the ranges. Because I think that the regulation defeats the whole purpose of what we stand for. I personally am not happy with a kindergarten class with 20 kids in it. I want a kindergarten class with 15 kids in it, not 20. And I really don't want a first or second grade class with the end range. So if we have to have a regulation, which I wasn't for in the first place, I would rather say I would rather have a regulation that basically says these are what the East Lyme Board of Education sees as optimum class sizes for each grade level, and then just say it. And then just say, that's what we're going to work for. We're going to work to have 15 kids in a kindergarten class. We know it's not written in stone, but then it expresses what our purpose is. If we have a range of 15 to 20, I mean, that doesn't make me happy, because somebody could say, let's have one less kindergarten class because we could make them all 20 instead of 15 and eliminate a kindergarten teacher, right? So in this day and age where we're looking to save money any place we can, I really feel like the regulation's going to bite us where it hurts.
Oh, I see.
That, this is, from, my years on the board now, our top priority. We pride ourselves on our staff and having low class sizes in order to do the most effective job. It's what's most important to us. So if we want to make that statement, let's make it. Let's not say we can go 15 to 20, because it seems to me we're opening the door. So personally, I'd rather not have the regulation at all. If everybody else feels they want it, then I say 15 and 15 for K and 1, say 18 or 17, whatever that starting point is that 18 for 2? Yeah.
Yep.
Say 18 for 2, 19 for 3, and 20 for 4. I would just give the starting number and just say it's this is what we see as the optimum class size for these grade levels. Doesn't mean we have to have them. We can always change them based on what our policy says, but at least it says what we really believe. So that's how I feel about this.
Okay, good. Candace?
Agreed, and thank you for that. We've talked a lot about class size and what our commitment is and what we want to see. But it doesn't seem that it stays around that area in all 3 schools at the elementary school level. So there's an imbalance there, okay? We're already over on some of those numbers. So this came up many years ago because I've wanted it, and I was told no, about having a parameter. That's all I'm looking for, not just a verbal parameter. I want something in writing that's a commitment from our board, unified, that this is what we stand for, and this is what we're committed to, and this is what we're going to continue to strive for. That's all I want. So I hear what you're saying. The start numbers and the stop numbers, I want to say they came to the stop numbers, was possibly maybe from Eric looking for a stop number on the grid.
Which direction?
Yeah, when we
So let's
start
start.
and to stop. So
Okay.
I get that, I understand that, you know. We were looking for having a commitment and then having it re-looked at on a yearly basis, right? So that it can be managed if needed or what have you, but just something in writing that was going to really commit us to show.
I'm not against having it in writing. I just want the bottom number, not
And
the
I
other
hear what
ones.
you're saying, yes.
Yeah, and then put the word optimal in there, so they would
Okay.
say that this would be an optimal number. So, okay, Eric?
What do you think, Eric?
And Jamie?
Yes, I think a few things. So I worry, well, first, let me give my broad thoughts, and then I'll dive down. So my broad thoughts are, I want to, and I think I wasn't sure what start stop meant, but I want a minimum and a maximum, because I want to know when classes are too small. There is some point where we'd say, hey, we have, you know, should we have 10 students in a kindergarten class? And the answer is no, we shouldn't. Because if we're going to, when class sizes get too big, we talk about adding a teacher. I also want to know when class sizes are getting too small, that we figure out the other direction. So that's why I like having both sides of it, but I don't know that that's what this is reflecting. I don't think this is saying we shouldn't have a kindergarten with less than 15. Or is it? I don't know. I don't understand I don't know how to interpret this.
Yeah, the way that
piece.
I'm reading it is kindergarten 15 is the minimum, and it would max out at 20.
So if we have 14, we would try to shrink the class.
Right,
if
so
we
in
could.
the past, and can I just, I want to reflect that, because there have been classes that have been at 12 or 13.
Yep.
In one, section, and then another section with, and that's what we're trying to eliminate. We're trying to, get a balance.
Yeah, so for me, that's the benefit of a range where you kind of talk about a guideline, not policy, and I don't know what regulation means versus guideline or policy, but some type of range to show, say, when we drop below this, we're going to look to consolidate. When we get above this, we're going to look to expand. I would worry about putting a single number saying optimal, because we're never going to achieve that. So then the perception of people will be negative, right? Well, I have 17. Well, you said optimal is 15. So we're constantly going against a thing that's going to be very difficult to achieve.
Okay.
So, that's where the range is nice, because it allows us to say, hey, if we're in that range, that's about right. And so that's where I would
Okay. I said Jamie had her hand up, and then Al.
So I'm good with the policy. There are two really strong sentences in that policy. The very first sentence and then the second sentence in the second paragraph are super strong, and they say why we're strongly supportive of class sizes and how we view class sizes. My issue is the regulation with the numbers. So I can't look at a kindergarten parent and say, hey, your kindergartner can be in a class with 20 kids, but your high school kid, 10's fine. That kindergarten is that building block of education, and 20's fine, but the high school, 10's really good. I mean, there's a big difference there. 20 little tiny kindergartners and 10 high school kids learn at completely different levels. I would feel more comfortable saying to a kindergarten parent, 10 is great, and to the high school parent, 20 is great. I would flip them, but I know that we don't flip them. But my other problem is the number is we're going to get pigeonholed.
Oh, I see.
We're going to have a parent come to us and say, hey, my second grader has 23 kids, and that second grade class has 21 kids. How come you don't take that kid and you don't put that kid over there? Because your number chart here says that you're not going to go over, and you did.
Okay.
So we're going to be stuck
Okay.
with parents who come in and complain because we're one over and we need to move kids, or we're going to have someone coming in that we're one under and we need to move kids. I don't like pigeonholing us into a number system.
And are we being contradictory, too, with
They're
that
being
first
very
paragraph?
contradictory
And
by
then
putting in a chart.
You're putting in a chart, but that's not really, we're not saying that, in that first paragraph.
The chart completely contradicts the policy.
Yeah,
Completely contradicts the policy.
I agree with Jamie on that. And, for the class makeup, too, that dictates a lot, too, because you could have a
Like I
class
said, those
that...
two sentences
Yeah,
are
have some
very
significant
strong sentences, and
student
they
needs.
contradict the regulation.
So,
Okay.
Wait a minute, hold
Okay.
it. Al, you wanted to get a point in?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with Barbara. I'm not a big fan of the chart at all. Instead of adding one word, when we just say the maximum optimal size is this, anything in differentiation of that would be handled on a case-by-case basis. That way, you let yourself out. You say, we realize we want low class sizes. The maximum optimal, 15 for kindergarten. That's what actually, you can make it strong as you say, we intend to achieve a maximum optimal of 15. Other cases, other differentiations are on a case-by-case basis. You almost do it that way. I'm not a big fan of the chart either.
Okay.
Let's see, everybody had a chance. John, did you have anything?
Keep going.
Okay. And Bill, did you have anything to?
Well,
I just wanted to make sure just so we get everybody's 2 cents, and then we'll come back.
the nice thing is, the current board has been committed to try to maintain reasonably small class sizes, because the current board believes that that's part of the success of this program. So how do we put into place a policy that when the board changes, there's something that is documented what we believe? If you just put words on a paper that says appropriate, then 10 years from now, what is the number that people are going to refer to as what we believed was appropriate then? So my concern, and I'm listening to both sides of the chart. The chart's got pros and cons, but if we don't have some visual reference to what this group, I know in everyone's heart here that we want to keep our class size is small because this particular group believes that, but I don't know how do we go forward maintaining that without somehow quantifying what ideal is. So, to some degree, and I understand, now, since I've been coming, there has been a chart that looks similar to what was presented here. Has that been part of our policy, or has that just been a chart that's been shown to us? And has that chart come back to bite us in the past? Has anyone referenced it? Because it must be a public document that people have seen that says, well, there's this chart that's floating around with these numbers on it, and...
Well, not much came from the first one.
That was the original.
Yeah,
That was
the
brought to the
original.
AAA when this conversation
Yeah.
started.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
now we're finally getting to the moment of actually making it the policy. So it's been back and forth because, can I?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I understand what people are saying as far as the visual. But we currently have these numbers. So if you don't like to see it, I don't like to see it either, but it's happening. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And it pigeonholes us, or it holds us accountable when you have the chart. And honestly, that's what I'm looking for. And maybe that's not the right thing to say, but it's the truth. It is. I want accountability on our end.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to get into positions where we were last year, and our kindergarten class was, I want to say 21, maybe 22. I mean, I'm going in the 20s of a kindergarten class. And then when you have 3 elementary schools, and then you get into equity and the inequity, there's a lot of challenges. And I don't truthfully know what the exact answer is, but I know what we have been doing isn't the answer. So, go ahead. I'm done.
Okay, no, it's
Yeah,
good.
I'm gonna-
Good, John?
I agree with Candace 100%, because this front page, there's no teeth to it. It's just kind of a bunch of sentences that go on. And I mean, we've been doing this for like a year and a half now in terms of AAA and things like that, of talking about, actually holding folks accountable for class size. And if you take and I don't like 20 kids in the kindergarten either, but if you take away the grid on the back, then you just have a bunch of sentences that really don't mean anything at all. I mean, it says we're looking for something, but what is that, right? So that can be always amended by future boards, like Bill talked about. 10 years from now, that could be 35 kids in kindergarten, or who knows? I mean, we might not even have a state budget at that point, but this is the only key to this policy. This is just sentences. So.
Right, right. I mean, what it basically just says, is that class size is really important, and we're going to make sure that we have a discussion about it every year.
Yeah.
And then the regulation gives a stake in the ground, and that's why it's there, not as a policy, because So I mean, that's the kind of the crux of it. So, Eric?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think we need numbers, and I keep coming from the other side of also saying, we get asked for an additional teacher, and I like when I can go back and say, hey, we talked about this, right, we're over that amount, makes sense, that's, again, my mind worry, makes sense, we're there, it's time. Especially if you're consistently over and stuff. So I think having some numbers that if we can actually agree to some numbers, it'll make our discussions also a lot easier when we go through stuff, because we've already agreed to something. The pain is to actually agree to something. So I would like to see numbers, again, min-max or start-stop or whatever. I would like to see at the high school, again, maybe for another day, but I'd also like something similar there. I know we talk about minimum class size of 10, which are probably the smaller, could be some AP classes or some of the more non-mainstream classes, right? Not your English 3A class, which is probably full. But I'd also like to see maximum on that. I mean, I know one of my children had a class with 30 kids in it. So I think that was too many. So So we should look at, that there is some number as well on the other side. Probably too much to debate now, and it'd be great if we can get this down, but I would like at least a Part B where we do look at the high school a little bit more.
Okay. Barbara?
I just want to give an example of what I was talking about. I've been working with numbers here because I want to sort of illustrate what I was saying.
Okay.
All right, let's suppose we have 100 kindergartners. All right? If we have 100 kindergartners, that's 5 classes. So if somebody looks at our numbers and says, you have 100 kindergartners, you can put 20 kids in a class, according to your policy, you only need 5 teachers. If you divide 100 by 15, you need 7 classes. It's a big difference.
Yes.
But with 7 classes, you actually drop below 15.
Yeah, you're,
No, because then what you could do is you could have some classes with 16, in other words, you would reduce the number of you could literally reduce the number of kindergarten teachers by at least 1. Right? See what I'm saying? And then you'd have bigger classes.
But that's a board discussion, right? We know we're in the, for me, we know we're in the range, right? We say 15 to 20.
But
we're in the
I
range.
don't think
Then it's
20 is an what I'm
Well,
saying.
then change the number.
Yeah.
I don't know if
change-
20 is
yeah.
the right number. If 20 is not the right number, make it 18. I don't, you guys know better than me. I just want to, if 20 is just not the right number, it's too big, and that's what I'm hearing, pull 20 off the list and make it 19 or 18. So
I've got
whatever.
feedback too on that 20.
Yeah, so let's fix that.
what's the feedback, Jeff?
Well, it just said it's too high. That range
It is
for
too
the
high.
kindergarten level is too high. So there's been some voiced opposition,
What
to
would be,
that.
what would be the upper bound on it then?
I think when you drop back between the 15 and 18 range is looking at.
Okay. So then, if it's 18, then you can go through the math, and again, if we come out that we can do it with 18 and have 5 classes, whatever, that's 90 kids, 90 students, then we have 5, we can have 5 classes. If we have a discussion that we want to add 1, that's a discussion in budget and what are we, opportunity costs, but at least we know within that range that we're comfortable with 18 in a class.
It'll be that much easier to balance them too, 3 schools that are at the same.
Yep.
Rough, yeah. it's
Yeah.
gonna be-
Right now with 2 classes, 2 kindergarten classes at Nyack Center, it's virtually impossible unless you're going to go swing one way or the other completely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Candace. Go
Okay.
ahead, Candace.
So first of all, I'd like to say I told you so.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
About the kindergarten class being too high.
Okay.
Okay. And if you have a grid and a commitment on paper, it is less likely to have a reoccurrence of what we had last year.
Yes.
So if we had it last year,
Yep.
it wouldn't have happened. So that's what I'm trying
Yep.
to, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Got it.
I'm absolutely willing to, balance with those numbers. I think 20 is too high as well. We're sitting with 20, you know what I mean? 21 in a kindergarten class. And we got there because we had no boundaries. We had verbal. We had commitment, but when it came down to it, no teacher went over there. So that's what I don't want. I want a boundary. I want a commitment.
So what, Jeff, what did you think for kindergarten, what the upper bound?
18.
Yeah.
18?
18 is.
And what about first grade?
18.
Yeah, I'd say the same. And then if you go to the, didn't we say next? Barbara, I actually liked your numbers where you.
Me too. I think, yeah, it was
jotted them down,
18 first, kindergarten and first, and was it second
Second
You
grade.
said 15,
grade?
15, 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jamie.
Well, but those are all minimum.
Those are all minimum.
Those
So
are
I don't.
Well, that's ideal, that's ideal.
So we're more looking for the math.
I think,
But if the range, if you were going to do a range for kindergarten and first grade, I wouldn't go more than 18.
okay.
Okay.
I would agree with you on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so kindergarten first.
Second and third, I would go 20 as the max.
20?
And I would agree with that.
Okay.
And then up to the
It's over that
24
now,
at
just so
grade
you
4.
know.
And I might go 22.
For which grade?
So.
Grade 4.
I'm sorry, say second grade
Had
again?
24 at his.
What were your
second and
proposal
third.
for second grade?
Mine had 24.
20.
20. Okay. All right. And then third grade?
I'd stick with 20.
Yeah, because that third grade year
It's a
is.
transition year.
That's a really tough year.
Super tough year.
Third grade is what, did you say?
20.
Why is it a transition?
But that's your ideal number.
No, I wouldn't go higher than
You
that.
wouldn't go higher than 20.
I mean, at the elementary level, the
Okay.
lower the numbers, the better.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm just wondering how far out of whack we are with.
Jamie, what do you think? What do you think?
No, I mean, if
that
all of
you're
your
serious
elementary
handcuffing
classes could be
yourself.
between 15 and 20,
That's what I honestly believe.
that
is
would be
you're
optimal.
handcuffing yourself with those numbers.
Especially with Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention and what we ask of our elementary teachers in terms of,
'Cause I'm thinking of what
providing
our numbers were
intervention.
last year, and they're all over all of those.
But again, just keep in mind, you could have the dynamics of a class where you could have 24 kids in the class and not have an issue. Or
You
you
could
could
have
have
15 kids in a
15
class.
kids in a
Right.
class.
Have you
and it
That's
could
why
be
I don't
crazy.
like the number.
Which is why I don't like the numbers either.
Yeah, but
But if you don't have a number,
Yeah, I know, I agree. We need to have some,
I think point.
Can
I
you
told you
do,
policy doesn't
can you have a grid with numbers, with accountability, and then have an addendum piece or something on the bottom to speak to, I don't know how to word it.
Wait,
So, I mean,
you're
it's all
saying-
in
yeah,
wording
yeah.
as far as what the class makeup is. There are certain situations that
Well,
would need
that's
to
what the
be.
policy
That's what the
says.
policy says.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why could we not have a chart that just said something like, these are the numbers the board will strive
Yeah, that's,
to achieve?
that's what we're, that's.
That's
kinda-
all it should
yeah,
say.
That's what we're kind of coming down
Will
to.
strive to achieve. Doesn't say we're going to do them, it says we're going to strive to achieve them.
you don't want to wedge yourself into a corner too.
Right.
You know, if you have to, we're forced to
I
make
think,
decisions.
but I think that's where this,
We'll make
this-
an effort.
yeah, this
Yeah,
as the regulation, you put that there, then, that's good. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get this thing burned, we're trying to get some number thing put in place so we have a reference, everybody has a reference point to go to. And if for some reason it needs to get changed because we find out new information that says 20 kids in second grade are too many, then you'd have that conversation and you could make adjustments around it.
Well, but if you have a range of between 18 and 20,
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see, Eric has.
I can
hand
hold
up,
off,
then-
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Two
John,
comments. So one is, it would be really good to have, because now we're just, I think AAA spent a lot of time working on this, and now we're over, a half hour just trying to come up with numbers, what sounds right. But we had that whole, I think maybe Jamie sent, we had all those other schools with what they, so what do other, if we look at not only our DER.
That was from policy committee.
No, it's from Bob.
Policy.
But there are other schools. It would be interesting to see,
Yeah,
look
policy did
at
not
some of the
want regulations.
better schools, like, what is Greenwich or Darien? Forget about Dergs. Just talk about what do those schools,
Oh, I did do that.
Most of them
Push
have a
for-
maximum number.
It was a
They put
maximum.
anything
Okay.
over 24, the
So,
board
but what-
will investigate,
but do they have a different
adding
number
those.
by grade?
I've not seen different numbers. No, I've seen.
Or can we just
one.
informally, can we talk to a few of the other superintendents and just get a feeling for, if we come up with something, and maybe we can come up with something, but it'd be good to understand, are we way off in either direction? Is 18 for kindergarten, does Darien have 22 kids per kindergarten? Because I'll tell you, if Darien has 22 kids per kindergarten, and they have, a significant different economic
Right.
place, then we have to think about, and the very good schools, I'd like to understand that, because it's always good to have benchmarking, because we're going to get questions, why it'd be good to have benchmarking.
I
The
mean, I
other,
think in general, school districts don't have class size numbers unless they have it in their teacher's contract. A lot of teachers' contracts
That's
say
true.
you can't put more
Yeah.
than 28 kids in a class.
Yeah.
But most school districts don't put numbers because they don't want to be locked
But we could
in.
we can talk to superintendents and just say, what do you guys strive, using your words, what do you strive for kindergarten? Just to get a feeling, we don't have to publish it or anything, but just, are we in the right range? The other question.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay, well, just the other thing is that we don't account, I don't know how we account for, I guess, is it TAs and IAs and how that incorporates, so, because there is another adult in the classroom
Supports that are
that
there.
has to, somehow that has to be taken into account.
I think we're getting real close on this.
Me too. I
I
like the
really
discussion.
do.
I want to thank
I
everybody, because
think,
I know it's hard I know that it's hard.
So well, maybe one thought is to say, and this is the first time I've heard Jeff come back and say, I've been thinking about it, and I think the numbers, the thing, you shifted it down.
I've gotten some I've heard some feedback on that.
Why don't we action the superintendent to go off, do a little more homework on some benchmarking. You and your administrative team come back and say, these are the numbers. I think you've got a pretty good sense where the board is, where we're starting to hone in on. Okay. And bring it back, and we'll this is not, we'll have a second first reading.
So the clock doesn't start ticking from this meeting.
Yeah.
Well, it does.
I don't,
but
I mean.
It does, but we can have as many readings of a
Yeah,
policy.
that's right, yeah,
We just can't approve it
Yeah, we
for
could
30
approve, yeah, he
days.
could come back.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, he could
okay,
come back
okay.
30 days from now with a proposal of, and we could all say, oh, this is fantastic, and we could adopt it.
Got it.
Yeah, that's right, Jamie, you're
We
right.
can discuss this for a year.
Okay,
It just
okay.
has to be 30 days before we approve it from the first reading.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
I just want to add one thing
Yeah.
really quickly, because the importance of having something for accountability, we have so much growth going on in
Yeah,
town.
that's a good
And it's
point.
all over town, okay? But we are going to have an influx even more so. We've already seen the pattern and the trend start, and it's going to continue. And we're going to end up with a real heavy side, possibly over on Flanders side, possibly at Willie B., but also possibly over at Niantic Center too, because there's growth going on over there that I'm hearing about. It's just, I think that it's super important, and I want to thank everybody for having honest discussion.
Good.
Going at anybody's throat. I
Let me just say,
appreciate
is
that very
everybody
much.
okay with the policy, though? We're not looking at, right now, changing the
Yes.
policy, though? Just going to look at the, okay.
Policy is one, policy is great.
Yep, all right,
I love
good.
policy.
Because I like,
You got it, Jeff?
Okay.
That's what I-
Okay.
We'll work on
So
that.
August 7th will be a fun discussion.
Yeah,
We're getting close.
I think we're getting closer.
I think we're really close. Yeah. Okay. Okay? Other for discussion. Infinite campus update and the new website platform review. Guess there's two things in one here.
Yeah. if we
You're a
get to-
trooper for sticking
you
through this
really-
whole thing. Oh, boy.
And Stacy's here as well. Stacy, thanks for,
Love you,
is our,
Stacy.
Stacy's our data, Stacy Muscarella is our data manager, so. Yeah, Pat and Stacy are here to talk about, the Infinite Campus update and give you a brief overview of where we are. We talked about doing that this summer, so. Pat, we'll turn it over to you.
I'd like to start by introducing our data management specialist, Stacy Muscarella. So it's been a year since we've rolled out Campus, and it's been a year. So before I go into, talking about the timeline, because I think you all have the copy of the timeline specifically, I just thought I'd do a little narrative that will kind of explain the next slide is just the goals that we had for the first year, and then the bottom is what we have accomplished. So I'm just going to outline pretty much what we have done and where we're going to go. So we implemented Campus. We, as you know, combined 5 databases into one. This is the first time the district has had the household information in one spot. The household information we refer to as the demographics or census information, it's key to making this work. So we've been reviewing and cleaning. We actually just did a training this afternoon with the admin assistants in terms of cleaning, reviewing what the data means. Although we've done a lot of training when we first rolled it out, you kind of have to use the product to understand where everything fits. So that's the data cleaning, which will never go away, but hopefully won't be as much as we've had to do this first year. Cleaning campus data also gives us an opportunity to review and assess the other databases that we're trying to align with campus. This year, we're aligning the library software, which for the first time is going to be a district-wide software we're using. The high school used to use Lions. This year, they are going on Destiny Follett software. So we're all going to be on one platform, which is going to make the alignment of the libraries nice also. We're doing that with our transportation software. We're aligning the data that's in the transportation system now to resemble what's in campus and link up those systems. Same with what we did this past year was we already linked the food service, which also has our POS, SNAP, which is our health software, and NutriKids, which is the food service software. Once we recognized or we looked at all these programs, we're, again, taking the opportunity to see if the programs that we're keeping and linking are giving us the data that we're looking for. The food service software, right now we have to extract data from their individual software and put it on spreadsheets to manipulate it before we can present it to the federal government and the state. So taking advantage of the new food director who's online, he's already reviewed the potentials of the campus platform, and we're looking at trying to line it up. What that will do in a positive direction is take the POS system, which is part of our food service now, point of sale, and make it for all fees that students incur, not just a food system, which is a great outcome for families. The current system also reports on free and reduced applications. Again, this is all being manipulated from the spreadsheets from the program that we already have. We're also taking the opportunity to look at our data collections in the form of student registration process. What is the process across the district? Let's align that process so it is district-wide.
Oh, I love you.
What information are we collecting? Why are we collecting this information? What are we missing district-wide? But really taking a centralized approach to the collection of this data. And as we look at this information, we're also trying to pull in families with younger children to kind of look and see growth sides in the future classes. Even though they're not in the system now, let's anticipate growth size. That software is, so the software campus is constantly improving. So they have updates each month. They have an update. And we like to stay 1 month behind that, and sometimes it's to correct software issues. A lot of times it's to grow out tools that they have realized that they're building. One of the new tools that they've upgraded with, which I'm taking advantage of, is the single sign-on, so that it links with our Active Directory, so teachers won't have to remember multiple logons, multiple sign-ins, as well as students. That's big when you try to figure out what software you're in and what you're trying to get. Another example is the link with G Suites and Google Drive. That was rolled out at the beginning of October last year. It was a campus upgrade, and we rolled it out immediately. So what I'm looking to do is, it was a pilot program at the high school. Now we're going to move it down to other levels. Along with expanding document access, we're planning to push out tools to our middle and elementary schools that are already being utilized at the high school, such as online access to homework, more electronic access, more electronic communications with home. We're trying to work with everybody to bring that process down to the middle school and eventually the elementary schools, helping with the communication component. We're working with the data team to upload our test scores, our standardized test scores, such as Smarter Balanced, CMTs, SATs, ACT Aspire. Presently, we're retrieving this data from multiple websites. We're hoping to house it under campus in one location. So we're trying to get the fuller picture for everyone in one spot. Before we do this, however, we have to make sure that the data that sits, that the platform sits on is clean, and we're maintaining student privacy. As our database grows, we're also doing custom reports home. We've had several custom reports made, or custom transcript. At the high school, we have done a custom report card. Custom meaning we're using the same reports that everyone has been used to in the past, and we're making campus produce that same data. We're not using campus's canned report cards. We didn't like the look and feel. We wanted to keep it standard. With those custom reports, we're also rolling out a custom campus portfolio, which will be a tab in the portal that will house the custom reports. So you'll have your transcript, you'll have your report cards. Instead of for that present year, you'll have them for progressive years. So as we roll up to the next grade level, you'll still have last year's information in campus. That's new, and we're hoping to roll that out in the fall. When I reported to you in March, I gave you the data that I pulled out of campus. It was a canned report. I ran the reports. You had the data sheets. I was able to take a mile-high view of the data and say, here are the numbers of parents that have, or students that have parents with a portal. Here's the number of students that have accounts at the high school. But, and those numbers will never equate, because you can't do a 1-to-1 or a 2-to-1. Some students will have 2 parents with an account. Some students will have 1 parent with an account. Some households will have 4 students and 1 parent account. So the numbers on the data sheets that you have will never add up to a total, oh, we have 100% of parents with portals. Or the bigger question is, how many students have no parent that has a portal? And this is where the data manager comes into play, because the data manager can, I'll let Stacy speak to what she can do.
So specifically with our parent portals, I love the fact that we have the opportunity for parents to go in. As somebody who's worked at the elementary school level, in the office and in classrooms, being able to have our demographic information updated by parents who can log in and change their information is vital. So the numbers that we're pulling out of campus, when I first looked at them, were great. We can look at percentages, and some of are 60, 70%, but that doesn't help me find those parents who still don't have accounts. So what I wanted to be able to do was find a way, because the other thing go back a second. The other thing that we hear too is parents don't want to get 5,000 emails that don't have anything to do with them. So in an effort to kind of curb that, I went through and created using SQL to create a report and a filter that not only took the students, looked at them and said, okay, who has no guardian? So it could be, so we have a student, they have 2 guardians, they have not a guardian with an account. So those are the parents we know we need to kind of say, hey, just FYI, maybe, you missed the email. So that's what I created to first, was just a way for us to be able to see those students who have not a parent or a guardian accessing any of their student information. With that, we can create a filter that can be used to send out the same way we send out messages through campus, through emails. It automatically only pulls those students, and it can be one quick, it's like 2 minutes, it can be sent out. And it's not going out to those parents who've already created accounts or are using their spouse's accounts or another account. It's only people who, their children are not having their information viewed or looked at. The other piece with that was also being able to pinpoint and look to see what students may not have. We send it out via email. Maybe it also allowed me to drill down even farther and say, well, that's great, except for these 15 parents don't have email. So sending it home through email isn't going to reach those 15 parents in that school. So making sure we're sending home a paper copy along with it saying, do you have access? Many might not have, some may not have internet access at home, but you can also, many do have smartphones today, or a tablet, which as long as you can get onto the web, you can do it that way. So it doesn't have to be a computer, and kind of going through and reaching out to those smaller demographics. So kind of looking at that triangle of 85, 10, and 5, being able to drill it down in that way. But I've loved working with campus as the data manager piece. Being able to, what I love is data and being able to manipulate it and find ways that help us grow and provide things to our parents, which I think is fairly valuable.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So I did provide numbers, and I'm sure that if you want, I did have, so the numbers that I did compare and worked with Stacy, the middle school is clearly the winner.
Yeah,
in the
really?
fact that
Yeah, wow.
I believe, let me just check my notes here, I think they have 14% of their parents, and it's actually 13.7% after Stacy and I sat down, that we have students that do not have a parent with a portal account. So that was greatly improved. And I did not add those figures to the handouts that you have. Stacy and I were still calculating. Because we're cleaning the data, we now have the opportunity to be a lot more accurate with our counts going forward. Any questions on the numbers that I handed out, or where we're standing with Infinite Campus and the rollover? Could you please move to the slide? Sorry. Yes.
Me?
Go ahead.
Okay, so the high school, it seems lower. Now, is that because I would imagine most students are accessing their own account, or no?
So that's,
Student use at the high school is huge. It's almost 100%.
Where am I looking? What am I looking at?
This column right here.
All right, I'm looking at the wrong column, I'm sorry. Okay. Students have at
That's the
least one,
students
I'm looking at
using
the
it,
wrong
but-
one, I'm sorry.
That's the parent one.
That's the parent
student.
one.
Yes, the parents is low.
Oh, so the parents is
Yeah, you
low.
were
Yeah,
right.
so,
You were
okay,
right.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
you were
that's
right.
right. So the
It's that
students
the
are
parents-
doing it.
Students are
All
doing it,
right,
yeah.
but the parents aren't as much.
parents are
I know that
using
you're
it.
part of that percentage, I know
so
you
you're
are.
absolutely
I know that
correct.
you're in there.
When we rolled this out.
Because I know you're stalking.
I think it was in a mailing.
Too much.
Had to do it, first with a mail. So I think parents got the mail and set up the accounts, and then they really were setting up it was for the students, and then since they had the logon information, they're accessing the accounts, the students' accounts, rather than their own portal.
Okay.
The push in the fall is to definitely go to parent open house.
Yeah.
And reiterate, this is your, we changed the student logon in October to blend with the G Suite rollout and to make single sign-on easier.
Okay.
So we changed the account, plus the feedback was that the SACIT ID was way too long, so we're using the network ID.
Okay.
Well, the parents still had the SACIT ID.
Okay.
So if they tried logging on with that wrong account, we did get a lot of correction, but not total correction.
Okay. So the numbers are, they're higher than they were when they first came out. I mean, yeah, I mean, everybody's going to be doing it, so,
And
which is great. I love
the more we
it.
populate the database and give parents a reason to visit, the numbers should grow. Sorry, Jamie.
No, my only problem with it is every time we do grades, my app breaks down. It locks me out. But I don't know if that's just me, but it drives me crazy, and I have to go to a computer and log in, or I have to delete the app and then reload the app. I don't know if it's because I have an Android user and not a
No, I have an
Apple user.
iPhone, and the app is, I never use the app. It usually freezes and/or the information isn't updated. It's interesting. I have to go
Yeah.
to the website.
Whenever there's like the grades come out, it like shuts down and I've got to delete it and reload it, and then it's hard to find my way back in again.
So are you using the app or the parent portal on your?
I didn't know.
Are you
there
going
were-
on the web or are you
Well, I
using
see,
the-
I'm using the app, the campus portal app.
Yeah.
So I know that when we went to Interchange Campuses conference that they had in New York, they did speak to their app, and they are trying to make some adjustments, add some things to it, because not everything is there. But one of the issues was its responsiveness and some of its crashing problems. So that is being addressed by campus.
Oh, good.
No, you validated.
Because it is though.
Because
like,
it's
when you're,
happening.
like-
I don't
'cause
even
have
use it
my-
anymore.
My password preloaded in there, my username preloaded. I don't know what it is.
Right.
So I have to go home, find the password, find it all out, log in, and then I'm like, where did I put that password? Where did I put the login information?
Ultimately, what you want is to have your app, have it go ding, click, oh, what did you do? Oh, good. Or, oh, that is not good. You need to change that immediately. But it's not as user-friendly. So I think that was something to strive for. But I personally like using it, that a lot of people do, and find it effective. So it's cool.
Eric, did you have a question? I didn't see your hand. Okay, Barbara, go ahead.
Okay, my question is about you talked about teachers putting up assignments. Is that on Infinite Campus or on Google Classroom?
Campus. You can, well, actually, some teachers have been doing both.
Both? Okay. Do we have a way to know if everybody is using it?
No, they're not.
I was going to ask the same question.
They're not.
Everyone being the teachers.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the other?
Like, can you
Yes, one
tell?
or the other.
Well, campus is what your platform is.
Right, so they have to go into Campus to get to Google Classroom, you're saying?
Well, you have to put your grades in campus.
Right. But I'm talking about like posting, like on Google Classroom, you can post daily assignments. Can you do that in Infinite Campus?
Yes.
Okay, so Linda's going not well. That's the feedback I've heard too, that Google Classroom is much easier
I've heard
to use.
I've heard
Okay,
that, yes.
so then the question becomes, because we've talked about this before, once you have a platform where teachers can post grades, then, and you have a parent portal, then it starts to become an expectation, and parents start to get irritated, or they start comparing staff members by saying, well, if my kid has so-and-so, I can go and check their assignments, but if my kid has Mrs. Now, I'm also assuming that through the grade book, parents can look at kids' grades on a daily basis as
Only
well.
if they're posted.
Right, okay.
Well-
So, we're tracking how parents are using. Are we tracking how teachers are using is my question.
Ding, 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 ding. They're not.
This goes to an administrative side of things versus what, Pat's work as to, I don't think we've gotten there yet as to what is the requirement per se of how we want, teachers, and how quickly we want them posting their information. Mike Susi at high school had given a 2-week window back in the fall of last year. Some people, I don't know the full scope of that. I think some were pretty quick and posted things right away. Others didn't and posted things, maybe outside of that window. So we have to structure that and tighten that up.
So my children's language arts, not language arts, they're foreign language, I've never seen ever a homework assignment or a grade posted on Infinite Campus. Never. Not ever.
At the middle school level, yeah, they've not gotten there yet. That is the work of.
And the life arts teacher, I get an occasional grade, but not often enough to know how they're doing.
So the structure of rolling it out was, this is a huge undertaking for teachers to learn also.
Yeah.
So we have to supply the platform, clean the data, and give training. So we weren't changing any of the policies that were in place at the time. And I do believe that the 2-week policy had been in place for about 5 years, at least 5 years. So the whole structure of rolling out campus was to now look at all of the processes and review the processes as we're building the platform for them to use. Did that make sense?
Good.
Go ahead. Well, sorry, Candace, but I just want to complete
I'm patient.
Okay. There are a lot, I think we need to, my opinion, we need to think about, I understand moving forward and in terms of adding all of these other, platforms like Naviance and all that kind of stuff and getting everything on. But I know that some places, some districts, don't open their parent portal until they're sure that the information that parents are expecting to see is there. Because otherwise, what you're gonna start, it's gonna be self-defeating.
People are going to want to go use it.
Right. And you're going to start, you're going to start having a lot of ill feelings. People are going to start talking about this one does this one doesn't do it, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm thinking that maybe we need to slow down in terms of some of the stuff we're moving ahead with and really hone in. I think it's important to, the biggest thing with this whole thing, right, is to improve communication with parents about and get data on kids to improve academic outcomes, right? So all that other stuff is nice, like the library and all this other stuff.
Centralizing registration.
Yeah, right, that's important too. But that's our key thing. And so I think we really need to put in, and if that isn't, I understand that that's not Pat's job, except the training part of it is, because it doesn't do any good to put all this stuff in place if you're not training people and they're not using it. So I really think that we have to make it a goal this year to talk about, at least at the middle school and the high school levels, what our expectations are for staff usage, so that we don't start having parents, and I agree, we have to train people and make them feel comfortable and all of that. We can't just say, do it. But we got to have a timeline and an expectation, because we know that there are certain people who will never do it unless somebody says to them, it's an expectation. I just think we get into dangerous ground with our parent community if we don't really make a decision about this, because people are going to just stop using it, or they're going to start complaining, and
Well, especially true, Barbara, as you get down through the grades, because they're the parents that are going to be using it as they move forward for a number of years. So if they don't get in the habit of using it right, then it becomes problematic as they've got all middle school per se and all of high school to go. So if they stop using it early, that's a problem. So I agree. So that's definitely something timeline-wise that, middle school, I think we should focus our energy on middle school right now because it's not fully, rolled out.
And I know they want it because many of the middle school teachers have said that they really want Google Classroom.
We've got to be clear with Google's functionality as well as the campus's functionality and how that.
They're two different platforms.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Stacy, you said that you could identify what child's guardian or parent, or there had been no logging in on that certain child's account, which would trigger you to reach out in another fashion, right? So could you also identify when a teacher is not logging in? You must. There must be a way to identify that. If you can identify when a parent or a guardian doesn't. So say it goes, I don't know what the allotment is, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, what have you. A reminder system, or like a little something that goes out to the teacher to say, not so much like Big Brother, but a reminder to do it. I think it's not like cracking the whip. I just think there's so much to do in a day on a teacher's plate, on a parent's plate, on everybody's plate. There's a lot to do. So, it could just be that there's so much and then it's time for them to go home and they haven't done it. But maybe a reminder system or something like that, some sort of
The other thing we've done too is with our CIP dollars, technology dollars, we've purchased, we talk about laptop, trying to get more laptops in teachers' hands. So
That's another thing, because it's not as convenient.
Exactly.
Right. So they're not stuck at their
Purchase
desks.
as many laptops as possible for next year.
Doing their work.
Such a great point to bring up. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because it isn't as convenient, because teachers have to go back to that.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it isn't. It's just not
They need
user-friendly,
tablets and
another
props or
user-friendly.
something.
That's exactly,
So,
that's working with 2-in-1 devices, so it's, they're smaller laptops. but-
Which I think that would probably help too, sure.
Yep.
I'm tired. I
Definitely, so
haven't
those
had
will be rolled out. But training does come along with that,
Yeah.
so use of those.
It's been a very
So
long
just a
week.
word about the parent rollouts. I absolutely agree, and I tiered the parent rollout because you're going to lose the elementary parents if there's nothing to see. So we timed the rollout to the elementaries to right before the report cards were due. However, keeping in mind that there are certain parents that have students in all 3 levels. So it was tough the first year to roll it out in a way that was user-friendly to the parents. I had to kind of hold the reins back a little bit, but that was a tough call.
Sure.
And we're very, very cognizant of pushing down to the elementary and middle levels, that we need more information, more training on those levels.
Okay.
And just as the person who's the data person has to look at information, so the grade book and classroom tools kind of being a separate piece from that. As far as having the parent portals open, it is almost invaluable. It's only because of the fact that it allows parents to have access to that information for bus transportation for their classrooms. This year for elementary, I'm working on being able for a parent to log in and say, oh, what special do you have today? Do I need to pack you sneakers? For them to be able to see what day their child has special. So we're expanding on different things even for
She knows when
parents.
you
but-
and I log
and
on.
what,
I'm just letting you know.
transportation, what buses. So without having the parent portal for that piece, like I said, that's separate from the grade book and classroom tools, but that part is so important. And when we go to what I cannot wait for, which is online registration, it will also be hugely important for reminders for parents to help them register for the following.
So the programs that we're focusing on for the parents, I tried to color code, but I think I might have fallen down in a couple of spots. We're trying to line up other softwares so that the parents will have more data available to them. Online registration key, the POS system, the point of sale system, I think parents would enjoy because it will be for all fees. And they'll be able to have one cost of, hey, I just put money on the account, and then divide it, this much for lunch, this much for books, this much for whatever they want. And it will be instant, which will bring me right back to Jamie's issue with the responsive app, which is a nice gateway into the responsive app. Once that's working, you'll be able you'll be able to load the money into right from your cell phone. If you get a text from your student, then you'll be able to log in and load it immediately.
I can't get my kids to eat the food I cook, let alone the food somebody else cooks.
With the Infinite Campus covered, I'm going to go right into our website, which is
Please
really good. We're updating our website because of the responsive platform, to a responsive platform, which basically is taking the website and making it have the look and feel of whatever device you're using at the time. So a full website on a small little iPhone is very difficult to navigate. Hence the move to the responsive website platform. In building this platform, we're looking at what information we have on our website now, and what information will be able to be taken off our website and put into Campus, so it's not redundant. And you can go to one, so, this is where I'd find campus information, this is where I'd find the other information. So we have made the tech consultants have made a rubric, and we're identifying every single link on our present website, whether it's going to be put into Campus or someplace else, or whether it's in too many places and no one knows where to go to get it. So we've spent from January until last Wednesday reviewing all this information. We're reviewing it constantly. And a responsive website is built kind of backwards, where you actually put the content into a framework, and then we're working with Finalsite. Then Finalsite will come in and build the frame around our content. For that particular reason, I shared our link in progress with Jeff, and he's like, the names are wrong, and it was.
It didn't look exactly like we wanted to look, but we've got a good model of what it's going to look like in Madison. Why don't we show Madison? This is the template. This is what the East Line website would look like, other than.
So actually, do you want to show?
Looks beautiful. I'm excited, I can't wait to see it.
It's on Jamie's Android.
Oh, boy. It's actually a Google phone, but it has an Android
This is the
operating
setup.
system.
It will just say, it will be in red.
Right, at the top,
East
okay.
Line Public Schools, those are the structure of the buttons on the
Nice.
bottom. Ease
Okay.
of access, just the picture content is so much bigger and
Yeah.
brighter. So, and it scrolls through, obviously.
Right,
Okay.
we've changed the buttons at the top a little bit. I'm passing around my cell phone, and I'd encourage you all to go to the website and look at it on your phones. That's where the beauty is in this system.
Where are we going, Madison?
It's Madison Public Schools, it's madison.k12. So what we did, there were about 150 templates that we had to choose from. And when we said, no, we don't like any of these, they finally said, well, Madison paid extra for a form to be built for them, and it was exactly what we were looking for. So we kind of piggybacked on Madison. We had to wait actually a couple of months before Final Site had that template available for us to start building, which delayed our timeline a little bit because they weren't quite ready with the template for us.
Well, that's much nicer than
I'm excited.
But it really is.
I'm excited.
It's nice on the website. And the responsive, so the responsive website kind of holds us to which was the difficult part of choosing a template. It holds you to exactly, in the industry they call it WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, and we can't change the template. We can tweak it a little bit, but the picture size across the top, the buttons, the basic layout we could not change. We can change the colors, we can change the content, but the layout is to keep it responsive. Grant, do you want to go back to the PowerPoint, please? So I do have one thing to show you. Thank you. That we have built. Like I said, we're building our content first. So we're looking at our present website and checking every single link. And that is what our present website, one of the examples of our present website, and underneath each one of those links is about 4 million other links. And we're changing it.
Our website is awful.
To something like this. Actually, to exactly this. So it's grade-based, content-based within grade. So your student goes home, you know what grade they're in, you know what they're talking about. All of the links will be live and what they did in school. These are the exact links the students use during the day to get to the websites that they use, so they'll be familiar with it. Then when they go home at night, they'll be able to show their parents a lot easier.
Fewest amount of clicks.
Less clicks, the pictures will say it all. So this is the content that will be at the elementaries. And what we're also doing is sitting down with each elementary school and reviewing the software that each elementary school uses so they're uniform. So if one school does a project on whales, and that content was on their website, that content will be on all 3 websites, so it will be cross-platform.
Just quick timeline-wise I know we were talking earlier today, is our goal at the beginning of the year to have this rolled out, where it's tight, but...
It's tight because the template wasn't available to us for about 2 months, so that held us back from actually loading the content. We had nothing to load it to. We did use that time to start cleaning the content. So the goal is by opening of school. Even though that's a hefty goal, we'd like it by opening of school.
But our regular website will continue to work. This is all being driven in the background. And then we'll make a clean switch and notify parents prior to.
Perfect.
And again, hopefully we can get that by September 1.
Very good.
Great. Thank you so much for all the hard work you do, Pat. You're amazing. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Stacy, you're amazing. Thank you.
I just can't wait for the website.
It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Stacy.
Stacy, thanks as well.
Those lights are bright. I was kind of getting used to that little bit of a dark room.
Dark room, I know, yeah.
Poke your neighbor.
We're almost done.
This is nothing.
That's it for discussion, action items.
Yes.
Administrative reports.
Administrative reports. Quickly, a couple quick items. The redistricting. We could, with vacations, we couldn't get, a firm or firms here for tonight, and with all the other agenda items, I think didn't think it was a wise move anyways. So we're looking at August 7th. My thought is to bring, I'm going to mention this in Friday or last week's update. My thought is to bring the major redistricting firm, McBroom and McBride. They're available. They will be here on August 7th. They've got about a 15 to 20-minute presentation. So I thought let's listen to them, and then we can determine if we want to reach out to more. But they're the go-to, so let's start with them and go from there. So if anybody, wants to talk further with that, email me, we can, but I think let's start with one firm. Food service worker update. We are in the process of getting, everybody has come in, done paperwork, has met with Chris Urban, and we've got a couple more to go, this week. Chris is meeting with the last few, I think Wednesday and Thursday this week. We'll have everybody on board. So and we're ready to, we're moving forward. They're not going to unionize as of yet. We're going to give them a little bit of time and see how things go and develop maybe a handbook, per se, like the paraprofessionals have, and see how that goes. But we've had some good discussions with them.
I'm excited about
moving forward. We're still sitting at 4 students for Spiral as well that are slated to come over for next year. One was having trouble with her visa, but I think that's worked out. So we're still at 4. Haven't had any changes to that number, and we'll bring that agreement to you with the next meeting. And happy birthday to Eric tomorrow. So.
Okay, Eric. Hello.
We heard it was his birthday tomorrow, so it's a milestone. Number 40, right?
Yeah, I wish it was 40.
That's it. And EL Day was great. If anybody had a chance to, I saw Candace down there. It was great. A lot of fun. A lot of people. Which is Mariana was down there. Yeah, a lot of people. Packed indeed.
It was packed.
So, sorry, and Amy had to run out. She had a quick little emergency.
It's okay.
But everything's okay.
Mariana, anything to?
Just that at the August meeting, you'll have the year-end 17 report.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Good, excellent. That's it. Committee reports. There was an FFO meeting earlier today. Anything you want to pass along, board members?
Covered the one item.
Now,
Only 5 hours
we're
ago.
looking at the supplemental schedule.
Yeah.
And
We got some really good information from Linda, and
Okay.
we're going to get some more information, and we're looking at it.
Okay.
okay. Brings us to board comments. Any comments, Jamie?
Me. September 23rd, Harlem Wizards are coming back to East Lyme High School for the East Lyme Youth Coalition fundraiser again. I'm looking for players.
And it's going to be awesome.
It's gonna
It'll be
great.
fun.
So if you want to play, you want to help work a booth, you want to donate something, give me a call.
There you go. So that's at the high school. That'll be
High school.
high school, North
at the high
Gym.
school.
Jim,
Yeah. It was an
And
awesome
was it
event
filled?
last year. It's
Did
gonna
you
be
sell
awesome.
out last year?
I sold out last
Yeah.
year.
That's
Yep.
pretty. That's
Yeah, Jim packed.
That's
We
crazy.
raised over
It was
$4 grand for the
outstanding.
Youth Coalition last year.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to achieve more than that this year.
Very good.
Wow.
And if you play, you'll get a good nickname. They give
They
you
do,
great
they give you a good name.
They
What
give
they-
you-
what they
Richie
give me?
Cunningham.
Richie Cunningham.
Nice.
Yeah. Jen Brush was princess or something.
Yeah,
She was
super.
Really
good.
good nickname.
Super.
Yeah.
I like that. That was fun.
It's a lot of fun. The kids love it. I mean, we
kids loved it.
had standing room only last year, so
Wow, that's good.
It was a good
if
time.
you want to help at the door, you want to run a booth, you want to play, I would love it, and the kids would love it.
Barbara?
I just have a quick question. I was noticing under resignations that we lost a whole lot of instructional aides. Are we replacing all those people? So you have a lot of instructional aid hiring to do, huh?
Well, because we hire a lot of aspiring teachers, or
Right.
people who are sort of finished with their bachelor's and thinking about going back to school for their master's, and so
Okay.
it tends to be a pretty transitional position.
Yeah, it seems like it, because
Yeah.
I always notice on these reports that we have a lot of instructional aides
Especially
coming
in
and
this time
going.
of year.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Some of them
So
are coming to us
you're
for
good.
teaching, or for their student teaching. Like Haley Breslin's coming, she's been at the high school here and is going to Haynes to do her student teaching. I think it's Haynes.
It is.
Yeah. And so, and she's been great up here. I just recognize her name off the top of my head.
Have we ever thought about going do we have any permanent sub positions, like building subs that we hire for the whole year?
Not.
Long-term stuff?
No, well,
No,
they move around.
no.
I know what you mean, but like
You
a
know what I
permanent-
mean.
Yeah. I did that in a different district when I was a principal. We had permanent sub.
That actually works really well. If we're having problems getting subs, we might think about that. Because when you're in it's another training ground for.
We had interns for a while from one of the universities that were,
Out of it certified.
that was their
Basically.
They were helping it.
duty as part of their
Yeah.
internship was
To balance it around.
long-term. So I don't know if that was from Sacred Heart or something like that.
Yeah, but it became
I don't think
more
we're always-
expensive.
It was, right.
That was really expensive.
Right, but if you do it with the sub rate, it only comes out to something like, I don't know,
Had like a-
15,000 a year or something. And
Yeah, I mean-
and then you always have a sub in the building,
Yep.
which is nice. So it's something to think
Bouncing
about.
around.
I remember that when we did, that was huge.
Can I just make a comment real quick?
Sure, yeah,
So we
absolutely.
want to have the bus transportation policy come back, right, at some point? And I think Jamie had said that maybe at your next policy, or no?
Yeah, we
Whenever you
just
have
haven't
it.
had a
We haven't
policy
had a
since.
policy.
it
It
Yeah.
was
has
adopted.
We want to.
Because we want to get that, I mean, we have plans for
Yes.
that, and we want to
Yep.
kind of get that written in stone. The other thing is Fiddler on the Roof is going to be playing at the Eastland High School
Yeah.
the 27th and 30th. It's going to be a massive production. It's going to be awesome. So check it out. It's going to be fun.
Public comment? None?
Nothing, Linda?
Hi, you're okay.
Come on.
We do not have a need for executive sessions, so with that, we will.
We do, we don't.
We do not. We do not. It's
Adios.
July. I better not
Second.
have anything for executive session.
Second?
Second, somebody please second.
Alice,